Hello, everybody. Today is September 21st, and we're doing... I immediately forgot the sections because we had to do a 30-second thing for the air conditioner. But welcome back to the Level 1 News.
Government social is what we're doing today.
I was new social was one, but I forgot the first. I was going to say business, and I was like, that's not right.
We finally have stock of all of the mouse pads. There's so many.
Yay!
There's so many.
I actually love this one. I have the big one of this at home. I tweeted it the other day. 10 out of 10. If you've been waiting for one of these, they are now back in stock.
Kirsty, you think that's 10 out of 10? Who designed that?
No, it's pretty. It's colorful. It looks nice
but I'm
on the
saying,
desk.
who do we give credit for that? All this praise that you're handing out.
Me and John, our printer. Our printer helps us a lot too. He helps manage the store.
He didn't design it.
No.
She's singing her own praise. Where's
Thank
my
you,
remote?
John.
Oh no, the remote's gone. Ooh, the V8 Energy Orange and Pineapple. I like that.
I thought you'd had that before.
This is a chaotic episode already.
I thought that I had the pure orange one, and I did. I grabbed the orange and pineapple one before. I had to taste it, and then it was like, oh, yeah, I've had this before. This is great.
I remember, you gave that a huge grade.
But on the revised grading thing, is it still an A?
Yeah, this is definitely still an A. Could drink this all day long.
Now,
Taste the calories.
did we consider that diet?
It's kind of juice, right?
It's not really diet.
It's serving size the whole can?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, I mean, there's not a lot there.
Was it like 8 ounces?
Yeah, this is like one gulp for me.
See, this is what I'd prefer. Like, all drinks should be this size so I could finish them.
That's internationally, that's much more closer to the norm, isn't it?
Yes, I think so.
For sugar drinks, at least.
It's like, I'll open like a can of Coke and I can never finish it. So I used to buy the little ones, but those are more expensive, so I don't do that.
It's mostly sweet potato carrot juice, actually, instead of orange pineapple. But, it's fine. It's whatever.
Sweet potato juice?
Sweet potato carrot juice doesn't sound terrible.
No.
Yeah.
If I saw that at the convenience store, I'd be like, maybe I'll try that.
How do you juice it? Do you just blend it?
Alton Brown says the food processor is the key here.
Oh, okay.
You shred it and then smash it, right?
Yeah.
Pulverize it. That requires a lot of sweet potatoes. Maybe I'll grow those next year.
First Alton Brown 37. Yes, the food processor.
When I see food processor or stand mixer on the YouTube recipe, that's where I bail out. It's like it's too involved for me.
I actually had that exact experience yesterday. I was watching a recipe and she was like, just pull out your Vitamix. And I was like, nope, I'm going to stop you right there.
That's too much for me. Well, let's do some government news. We got some FTC action. Lena Khan, as she promised, very busy in her role. Not quite like her predecessors. They were much more low-key. But I don't know if I agree with this one because the word loophole, people talk about tax loopholes, and it's like, well, you change the code every year.
You could close the loophole.
You could simplify it, and I think these loopholes might be by design.
Bloomberg reports that tech giants used quote-unquote loopholes to duck merger reviews, the FTC says. So I looked at this, and I do think that this is by design. Like, this stuff is literally by design. And I think Bloomberg is going the opposite way of, for the hyperbolic words and phrasing to try to get businesses riled up to try to combat this. So what they're saying is that Google and Facebook and a bunch of other companies effectively merged with much smaller companies by just buying them or their products or absorbing their employees or things like that. And it's like, technically that's a merger. And it's like, no, there's a loop that doesn't count as a merger because they bought a product or they bought access or the company agreed to wind down and then do something else. It's not exactly a merger.
Which, by the letter of the law, that's the case. I mean, you can't lay out a system of laws and then when people follow them to the letter, be like, wait a minute, how dare you? You got to change them. And I understand that Lena Khan would change them if she could, but...
Although foreshadowing for our Locast and Arrow callbacks for other videos where it's like, wait a minute, they were following the letter of the law.
Well, that's the problem. Following the letter of the law doesn't guarantee that you'll be left alone. I think the separation there is you have to have like $100 million.
Yeah.
On the other side of $100 million, the rules change a little bit. It's like physics.
I'm going to stir up a $100 million hornet's nest.
A 1 nanometer item and a 1 inch item behave very differently. And you can translate that into business. I keep hitting my water bottle. And we have robust rules about health and health data and stuff like that. Not that it helps us that much because look at all the leaks I mean, come on, and Google's getting it.
And data breaches.
But it raises an interesting question. Is a Fitbit a healthcare app?
Yeah.
They would say no. No, we are not.
Fitbit would say no.
Yeah, but I think the way that they market it and the way people use it, it's a healthcare app.
But
Is it though?
old Shere Khan has other ideas.
FTC warns health apps to notify customers impacted by data breaches. It's like, well, look, they're sharing their anonymized health information. That's not the same as a health application. We don't have to follow the rules when it comes to data breaches and data breach notifications. And the FTC says, yeah, you do.
Reminder, with anonymized health data, that one AI was 98% effective at determining race from your skeleton.
Yeah, we don't know who this person is, but every week they do a jog around this house.
And they have low bone density. And Biden is looking to put another dim on the FTC board.
Look at that. Biden is going to tap Privacy Hawk for the FTC post. So this is another person who has experience with big data analytics and marketing agencies and the stuff that they do, and they're kind of another Lena Khan.
Alvaro Bedoya.
I tried to do a little bit of research on him for this episode, and I did not get very far. So engagement challenge, what other noteworthy things has this person done? Do they just make a lot of noise, or do they have like a coherent understanding of what's happening with the database?
What would you do if they came in and asked you to be part of the board?
Well, that's crazy.
Run screaming away from it? Yeah, you don't want to be a part of that. Okay, what do they get paid?
Probably a lot.
Yeah, probably a lot.
Well into 6 figures, I imagine.
I'd say you're doing better. You would be walking away from way more opportunity. Well, no, because you'd have to do the revolving door, though. Are you willing to do that?
No,
to get paid?
I don't. It's also unethical that it's just.
Imagine what you could do for Linode.
I was about to say, I can just imagine you in a hearing or something, and you're just screaming, and they have to pull you out.
Yeah, wouldn't be the first time that's happened. It's like, are you morons? Why? Stop being stupid.
We've asked that he be removed from this hearing.
Well, last week we learned that Locast was temporarily forbidden from operating their system. It was determined that it was a copyright violation, even though, by the letter of the law, like you said earlier,
you're supposed to be able to rebroadcast things that come over the air. That's the whole point of things that come over the air is accessibility to American citizens.
But
how is that so hard to understand?
It was a temporary shutdown until
Locast's free TV service ordered to shut down permanently after copyright loss. The judge did say, well, you can appeal and you can ask for a stay of this pending the outcome of the appeal. It's worth noting that AT&T literally gave these money people because this was a way that you could get local broadcast channels when AT&T stuff was down. And AT&T, remember, struggling under the crippling weight of maintaining their own copper infrastructure that bought a satellite TV company because, again, they don't want to maintain the copper infrastructure because that costs money. They literally gave these folks money and said, maybe this is the future. Maybe this is what we should do for local broadcast.
Turns out it's not. Well, the NSA, over the years, it's been well documented, have created a lot of evil that was then released unto the world. To very bad effect. Very bad. Unless you're China. They seem to have benefited from it. But it's not just the things they create. It's the people they train.
U.S. fines former NSA employees who provided hacker-for-hire services to the UAE. Not just hacker-for-hire services, they also helped the UAE develop Pegasus-type malware, according to the article. So 3 people, broke U.S. export control laws that require companies and individuals to obtain a special license from the department's Directorate of Defense and Trade Controls before providing defense-related services to a foreign government.
Defense-related.
I really think that stretches things a bit, but they were facing many years of jail time, so they said, you know what, we'll pay the fines, which were a little less than $1 million for each of them.
Paid by the UAE, probably.
Yeah, probably. But they're not allowed to do any of this kind of work again, which is basically like a career death sentence. And they're not allowed to
enforce, though.
Yeah, well, is it? I mean,
they won't be on the contact page for the company, but they might be in the back room.
It said they're not allowed to do anything related to network intrusion stuff or hacking or whatever. So they'll have to find something else to do. But it's not great.
I hear that Uber's having a hard time finding people. Maybe they could try that.
That would be depressing. It's like, I was making $1 million a year from the UAE, and now I have to drive an Uber.
They're always getting 2-star reviews. Won't shut up about the UAE. Well, App Annie, we have referenced them a couple of times, and I remember when all the headlines from App Annie were always big, surprising statistics about the app market, and it's like, wow, that's a crazy number. Wonder how they came up with that. Well, it turns out we might know.
SEC charges App Annie with securities fraud in a $10 million settlement. So it turns out that they're collecting money from people that have apps, if you include the library. But what they were doing with the data and what they were telling their customers they were doing with the data were two completely different things. And that's how they got charged with the securities fraud.
And they were giving you that as if it were research. And it wasn't necessarily the whole picture. So, More and more states are banning the old ICE cars. They don't want those combustion engines. And they've all set these aggressive timelines. New York is the latest.
New York to ban sale of all gas-powered vehicles in state by 2035. Asterisk, that's only consumer vehicles. That doesn't include trucks or anything else. Trucks is 2045 where feasible.
So basically, as usual, the large corporations can continue to do what they want.
Right.
And we bear the inconvenience for it.
Whoa.
Nice.
10 years from now, it's like, will anyone who even past that still be around? Will they just be like, well, we're going to extend it?
Let's load up Grandma into the e-scooter and go visit the relatives in upstate New York.
Oh, the old Article 230 the argument about that continues to rage. Some places are taking a slightly different tack. They are sort of trying to make it illegal to block certain things.
Texas passes a social media quote-unquote deplatforming law.
So this is like for, political or religious or ideological viewpoints cannot get you banned on social media.
I have a feeling this is not going to work out for them the way
they
imagine.
Expect it. Yeah, it's going to be.
What if they have like a really extremely horribly unpopular viewpoint, like something about, certain minorities are definitely untrustworthy and, really horrible. Like with this, a lot of the really horrible things that 4chan has been deplatformed for, would that make those things okay?
Well, there's definitely two religions over there in the Middle East that are diametrically opposed. If you follow the letter of them, you're kind of going against the other one, right? I mean, most religions are mutually exclusive. Yeah. Almost all of them. How do you not just let them do whatever they want there, huh?
So are you saying that we're going to have some really amazing Hamas stuff on Twitter now in Texas?
Is that still defamation?
I'm imagining like someone making a Facebook group that's like, kill the governor. Would that, like...
How's that religious?
It's not religious, but it's political. Can you deplatform those people under the new law?
They would, I think, and you'd have a hard time. I think really what they just wanted to do here was a light version of it, but when you write the laws, it doesn't work like that.
Exactly.
And you're going to get
There's too many edge cases.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Here's a head scratcher. I tried to find a follow-up for this. I still don't think anybody knows what happened here, but we do know what Miley did at the end there. Have you been reading about that?
Yeah.
Oh, he called China.
Oh, yeah.
He had a BFF over there.
I read about that, yeah.
And I think this was a similar thing. I think that this was like temporarily move it to where we can control it, right?
Maybe. A secretive Pentagon program started on Trump's last day in office has just ended. But the mystery has not. Control of a remarkable 6% of the internet was handed over to a Florida company. Yeah, so this is the IP thing that we reported on a while ago. It's like, what? All these Defense Department IP addresses went to some company in Florida, and then now they're back. That's what this article is about.
And it had no storefront. It had no information online. It didn't seem to exist.
The article makes it sound like the company in Florida was doing some kind of BGP route poisoning testing research to see if a foreign government could steal IP address blocks, and if so, what would happen as a result of that. But it's really super unclear.
Now, the Pentagon has said the timing was absolutely a coincidence, had nothing to do with the administration changing. They had planned it well in advance. Do we believe that? I don't know. Seems to be back to normal, though.
Spooky.
And you remember when we had that little trouble in Wisconsin, and a lot of people were out in the streets?
And then they were like, don't film that.
They were like, hey, don't film this, don't report on it, and by the way, we're shutting down air traffic because these drones are showing some pictures that we don't like getting out. Why do I mention that? This feels like an echo.
Biden's FAA replaces temporary ban on drones flying over a bridge packed with illegal immigrants. So at the time we're filming this, the number of immigrants that have shown up at this bridge has doubled in the last few days because they're from Honduras and trying to escape the horrible badness, among other things. And so we've decided that, there's too many people there. We shouldn't fly a drone because that's not safe. Has nothing to do with the fact that things don't look pretty there.
And that administration has promised that we do not have open borders. Pay no attention to the open borders behind the curtain. China has given its citizens an amazing new tool. God, they're so benign and magnanimous, the CCP. They're so nice to give people this tool to prevent fraud.
A popular Chinese anti-fraud app has been slammed by Western media as a tool to track access to foreign websites. So this is a tool you install and it's like, oh, no, that's fraud. That's not right. But it goes off when you access Western financial sites to show you the state of the Western financial markets or Western banking sites or any number of other things.
Well, it doesn't go off in terms of, it doesn't warn you.
Yeah, the independent thought alert button is what's being pressed in the background there.
But there is an alert. There's a push notification going to someone else. So this person, one of the people interviewed, described they went to Bloomberg.com. They were an investor. They wanted to see what Bloomberg had to say. A couple days later, they got a visit.
Oh.
And they were asked why they felt the need to visit Bloomberg.com. Because that is a Western website that is critical of the CCP and should not be visited.
Well, the dream of the internet's dead, isn't it?
Yes.
There's a lot of quotes in here of people who are praising this.
How impressive is it that they could send a wellness check to your house to make sure that you weren't being defrauded by Bloomberg? That's amazing.
Feels a little bit like astroturfing.
I mean, that would be amazing if, when my mom gets calls from the tech support scammer Indians that, the police show up and they're like, we detected that you got a call from the tech support scammer. You didn't give him any credit card numbers or anything, did you? No, we just, all right, well, that's good. Oh.
I imagine that's how it starts, right? A well-meaning Chinese developer comes up with something, and they're like, oh, yeah, we have a lot of old people who are falling victim to this kind of thing. I have a good idea. And then when it gets to the other end, the anti-Bloomberg team has their hooks into it. What are you going to do?
And that guy's, getting his liver chopped out somewhere.
What is it? The road to hell is paved with good intentions? What happens when it's paved with also bad intentions?
And ground Uyghur bones also mixes heavily into that mixture. Well, the Dutch have made a decision that many other countries have already kind of made.
Uber drivers are not employees, or are employees, not contractors, says Dutch court. So this is pretty interesting to read in. They basically did like a 9-point analysis of why they're actually employees and not contractors. And it's because they don't really have as much say as the company likes to pretend that they have. So they can't be contractors. They have to have similar rights and salaries as other people in the taxi type industry, which could impact Uber's bottom line to the tune of $750 million.
I have a feeling they're going to be losing a lot of those cases. And China, now that they've entered into this new phase of getting rid of the girly men and all the distractions and really sharpening up their populace, cryptocurrency is one of the big things that they've got their sights set on because it uses a lot of electricity, and they're a little worried about the winter coming up. So what do? You call the guys that worked on the Bloomberg project.
China has intensified the hunt for cryptocurrency miners in hiding. So some people are playing it fast and loose. They're saying, we're data researchers. We need to be able to do big data research. And that's still allowed. And you could have a huge farm of GPUs in order to do that. Well, they're cracking down on that because they've already busted several people that have said that they're researchers or whatever, and they've confiscated the equipment. And oh boy, it's a mess.
But think how warm those people will be cuddled up next to their farm.
This is your emergency winter shelter / Bitcoin mining farm. So it's like, okay. You know how we have the tornado shelters in like the government buildings? They're built to withstand earthquakes and tornadoes and stuff. That's how just like the Chinese government buildings have a basement
They
for
build
mining.
apartments around the Bitcoining mining area.
It's like that game that we played that had the furnace in the middle, and it's like it kept getting,
Frostpunk.
Yeah.
They couldn't be too far out from the radius or they'd freeze to death, and then morale would go down.
I think morale is already pretty low.
Yeah.
Parts of China.
Don't worry, they'll harvest organs before you have a chance to die when you get really far out.
And one group that's really probably feeling that morale hit. It's a tough day at the office over at Alipay. There's no cake in the conference room today.
Oh.
China will reportedly break up the Ant Group's Alipay and force creation of a new loans app. And you'll never guess who's going to be on the board of that new company.
In fact, they're going to own what, like 27% of it?
Yeah, it's a pretty significant chunk.
And if you really can't guess, it's the Communist Party.
That really sucks because their web team was doing a good job with CSS libraries and like lots of reusable stuff. I really liked some of the stuff that the Ant Group was doing in terms of like, here's a reusable web widget for doing whatever. It's like, oh, this is amazing.
Yeah, the people of China liked it too. A little too much.
Yeah.
The other prong of, getting the girly men back into their masculine shape and making them killers is to stop them from wasting their time on these stupid video games.
China's regulators said to slow their approval of new online games as Beijing's campaign against gaming addiction heats up. Remember, 3 hours a week. That's all you get.
If you're underage.
If you're underage.
Yeah.
SCMP reports this as slow, but all the paywalled American news sources said no more games till further notice. They're not approving anything for a license right now. And Tencent was at this meeting, and you got to think that was like, oh, boy.
I wonder if Activision's rethinking their strategy in the last few years. They're like, oh, should we have not bowed down to China's whims? Was that a bad strategy?
Actually, we kind of have stuff like that here in America where, the thing that got in is still allowed. But if new things try to enter that market, it's basically not allowed to by law. So, if Fortnite was already on the approved list, well, we see like Fortnite Cyberpunk 2077 and like Fortnite Tomb Raider and Fortnite something else as like we stuff more and more franchises into the husk of the old game.
Nah, I bet they wouldn't let them get away with that. I bet you have to. There's probably like an amount of code that changes or something, right?
Yeah.
That probably doesn't exist yet, but it will.
Yeah.
Somebody will be forced to come up with that.
I want to be a new broadcast TV provider that uses the airwaves to like send stuff to everybody free in America. That's not going to happen.
Or it'll be like Microsoft, and the CCP will be like, I don't know, this one boot texture changed. New operating system. I've never seen this hardware before. And they claim that the communists are trying this misinformation operation in order to divide us over what's going on in this country. I think we were already on a pretty good path to that.
They don't need to put any fuel on that fire.
Yeah, you think this team, they keep getting glowing reviews from the party, and they're like, we're not doing anything. Should we tell them?
We've been playing solitaire at work all day.
We've been coming up with edgy artwork. Pro-China misinformation operation attempting to exploit U.S. divisions because of the thing, report says. Now, if you read the article, it's more than just the thing. It's also a couple of other things that are happening, like protests. One of the things was trying to stir up protests because of all the incidents with Asian Americans here because people are crazy. And the article says they haven't been super successful with that.
But the big focus, obviously, is the source of the pandemic. They are really, really critical of sources that say it came from one specific place, which seems like a really good theory. India and Singapore are BFFs, and they've just made it official.
India and Singapore to link their payment systems to enable instant and low-cost cross-border transactions. It's like the EU, but not Europe. The AU. That's gold.
And Australia.
Oh
no! Look at that. You didn't lose a drop.
I kicked something a second ago. You dropped something. Wendell's knocking over cans. We're just a mess today.
It's been a very long week. I'm very tired. I didn't sleep the best. It's just Woo!
Well, South Korea is going to levy a fine against Google in our Fine of the Week.
South Korea's antitrust regulator fines Google $177 million for abusing mobile market dominance. So this is actually a multi-pronged fine. It has to do with not just the App Store, but also how it treats developers and also how it partners with Samsung on modified versions of the Android operating system. Now, most of that I don't have a problem with, but the one elephant in the room is Samsung actually taking Android and doing all these terrible things to it and then making it very difficult for you to use something else on your device. Because like if you try to unlock the bootloader, remember it disables the camera and does a lot of really other stuff. But this ruling says, no, Samsung should be allowed to modify Android however they want to so that they have something that kind of competes. And Google in their agreement says, no, you must not fragment Android. You must not run other things. You must not develop your own stuff that supplants the Android experience. I kind of think that Google should be allowed to do that as part of their product terms.
It's weird that the South Korean government would be so on the same page as Samsung like that.
It's also interesting that they sort of wrapped that, like that I think is the larger part of the ruling, but they wrapped it in kind of this donut of, oh, let's talk about app antitrust because that's the new hotness that everybody else is talking about. And then you read it and it's like, well, this mostly doesn't have to do with apps.
But Samsung is doing to the consumer what Google is doing to Samsung.
Yeah, they're angry
Yes.
because Google got in first.
Yeah.
Yeah. As someone that's been on the receiving end of Samsung's vision for what a mobile phone experience should be, I don't want that. I think that's bad.
Let's be fair. Google's vision, not much better.
Agreed.
Well, Russia is much like China and some of these other nations. They are very intolerant of social media who will not bend to their will. And they told them a while back, they were like, listen, we don't like something, you take it down or you get a fine. Well,
Russia fines Facebook and Twitter for not deleting banned content. The fines were really pretty trivial, though.
but they will persist. It's every day, right?
Yeah, it's like $20,000 a day.
That'll add up.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Just whip out my investment calculator. If I were to make 20 grand a day, yeah, I'd do pretty good. Kazakhstan, that country that no one had ever heard of until it became a punchline, is now constantly in the news. And they are also struggling with social media. I think it's old world, new world kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kazakhstan moves to restrict foreign social media usage. This is because of memes and negative things that happen, and they're just not sure if people are disrupting their local infrastructure.
Kazakhstan's parliament has some good looking buildings. They look just a touch Soviet.
That's probably the intent.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, that's their history. I mean, it makes sense.
And Brazil is basically having the same fight, but taking it a little further.
Brazil's president banned social networks from removing some posts. Now, we've talked about the Texas law where it's like, oh, you can't deplatform. They kind of already had that problem with some of these posts from the people inside Brazil. So they didn't deplatform anybody from Brazil. They just deleted the nonsense. We're like, all right, we're not going to let you not post, but we're just going to delete the nonsense every time you post something that's nonsense. So we have this, which is kind of backwards. It's like, you will not delete the nonsense that we post.
But the guy in power is, what they would consider to be a right-wing type of guy. So a lot of his stuff and his supporters are getting suppressed because obviously Facebook, leans the other way. So he's saying, no, you can't delete anything. Which, that's going to lead to other problems for sure. They also have a big election coming up, which might have something to do with this.
This is going to disrupt everything.
And El Salvador, thank you MSN for giving us the gender, has their whole their Bitcoin thing going on. And it was the big dream. Hey, we're going to use the volcano. We're going to give everybody, what was it, like $30?
$30.
American dollars, which is not a trivial amount, and here in El Salvador. And day one, we saw last week, didn't go great. But then they had a couple more days to get it all put together, and, well...
El Salvador's Bitcoin digital wallet beset by technical glitches. So some people tried to buy a pizza with it, and they didn't have their $30. Ooh, they're trying. It's like 6 continuous days.
Couldn't get registered. Sometimes you'd get registered and they would say that the account was already taken. And then sometimes you'd get everything working correctly, but your $30 never showed up.
They're working on it, they say.
It's going to be a long weekend for them.
Yeah, I'd say
It's been a long 6 days.
Yeah.
at this point on Friday, they're probably like, yeah, we'll deal with this Monday. I got to go spend my $30.
Which they made sure came through on their account.
And the big tech headline, maybe the story of the week, not in my world, but you know, in the tech world, was the whole Instagram teen girl thing.
We have 3 different stories about the same event.
Yeah.
We do, yeah.
So first, we find out about the research.
Facebook is now under more scrutiny after its own research shows that Instagram is harmful to teens. Instagram says it's committed to understanding complex issues young people may struggle with. U.S. lawmakers want more answers. Is this the one where it was the 1 in 3 young girls have worse body image issues as a result of this?
Right,
Yeah.
that's the whole crux of all of these stories.
I don't think men are immune to it either, but I think it's more prevalent among teen girls.
Oh, yeah, way more body image stuff on girls. No question about it.
A lot more abject cruelty from teen girls too, probably.
I mean, I don't buy into the whole, like, you know, patriarchy, male privilege thing. But in this case, absolutely, you got to admit, girls have it a lot worse. But isn't it true that the magazine industry has been guilty of this for decades?
Yes.
So
Well, our whole society's that way. I mean, like,
Yeah.
women are more valued for their looks than anything else they contribute.
in some cases. And but when you talk about, okay, we got a big headline here. It's social media, it's big tech, it's children, and these Congress people are just like fighting against the leash. Like, let me get it. Let me go.
Congress will investigate claims that Instagram harms teens. Democrats call on the company to abandon Instagram for kids. Let me just back up here for a second. Let me tell you what's actually going on. The Congress critters have realized how much power social media wields. And they have realized this might be the cudgel that they need to use to beat Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg about the head and face in order to win their next election. It was never about the safety of children.
Now, the big problem that Instagram has here is that they had this gentleman here, I guess he's the CEO, right? He made some comments before all this happened, but just slightly before. And, they were not good comments in this context.
The headline from Mashable is, Instagram boss says that social media is like cars. People are going to die. That's not actually exactly what he said.
It's kind of
close.
Kind of what he said.
It's close. He said social media is like cars. They have a tremendous benefit, but may require some regulation, otherwise people will die.
But I will say this, and when we talk about dying, in this context, we're talking about suicide, right?
Yeah.
Young girl, bad body image, something happens, she's depressed, she kills herself. But, and a lot of people made the obvious comparison here that they're like, yeah, the car industry, one of the most regulated industries in the world, which, you know, that's fair. But I've lost my original thought there.
It's been that kind of week.
Oh, people are going to... So, the Level 1 forum, right?
Right.
We have like this tiny, tiny, tiny microcosm of what these people are dealing with. And the mental problem people, they will always be there. They are ever present. And nothing you do will stop them from killing themselves. So, like, can we really put it on Instagram to take on teen girl depression? That's a perennial thing anyway, right?
Again, I think this is a cudgel that lawmakers will use to do whatever.
To do whatever they want, yeah.
The contrast with the auto industry, to your point, is we're able to empirically measure those things. It's like, should we change the internal structure of a vehicle so that in a head-on collision, the passenger compartment is less likely to crumple? We can put in crumple zones where the engine and things like that will fold in on itself. We can reinforce the firewall so that it will be safer. We can scientifically and empirically measure these things. Thus far, it's just, you know, some politician doing a knee-jerk thing saying, that seems like that's bad because I should be able to say this.
But let's say they come and they tap you on the shoulder and they're like, all right, it's your job. How do we fix this?
We don't even have the science to do the safety thing.
Yeah.
The only thing you could do, I think, if you were Instagram is remove a lot of, like, the filters. So like the way Instagram works is you can take pictures of yourself, but like everything's so filtered and blurred and like distorted. And that's stuff that's features in the app. You could tell them to remove that, but I mean, people will just go to other apps and
the real
change
fix,
the image.
The real fix is to make it so that we as a society don't put so much emphasis on those things.
Yeah, but that's a huge problem to solve that you can't really solve through legislature, I don't think.
Let's root out the mammalian nature from all of these humans.
We're going to have our lizard forebrain surgically removed.
Can I upload an image to Instagram that I didn't just take with my phone? That's possible,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So the filter thing won't work.
Yeah.
No,
I'll just
not
take
fully,
it somewhere
no.
else.
Yeah. That's the only thing I could think of off the top of my head that like you could ask Instagram to do, but I mean, it doesn't solve the problem.
Well, the same way, I mean, a lot of these kind of studies ultimately led to things like seat belts. Like in the beginning, it was like, why would anybody even conceive of doing a thing like a seat belt? And then later it was like, you know what, seat belts are a good idea. And then, initially it was across your lap. And then it was like, well, we probably need a 3-point harness.
Yeah. I remember in the 80s, a lot of people were anti-seatbelt. They're like, no, it'll cut you in half. And I think that maybe happened one time. And that's when they were like, oh, we should put the strap on your shoulder as well.
Yeah, I remember my cousin saying that, and that was like in the late 90s. I was like, I don't think that's a thing.
I think maybe it did happen one time.
Yeah, like in the 80s. Neither of us were alive at that point.
And we did have my parents had a Mercury Cougar, and I was in the back of that tank with that little belt strap all around me, just like, just whipping around.
Having a good time.
Yeah, we thought it was great.
I remember, the family truckster from National Lampoon's Vacation. We literally had a vehicle like that.
The station wagon?
Yeah, and I remember it was like, just climb in the back, and it's like, there's not even a seat back here. It's just flat. And they're like, it's fine.
It was rear facing.
Yeah.
We used to just ride in the back of trucks too, like just to go to the video store or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't see that anymore.
I think that
pulled
is
over.
illegal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I see
It wasn't for a long time.
I see a lot of lawn crews doing that.
Yeah.
Well, we found out during the last election, or I guess it was the one before that, right? That some Facebook users get to break the rules because we had the big Donald Trump argument. Should he or should he not be allowed on Facebook doing the things he was doing? Ultimately, they decided no, but it turns out he's not the only one on the VIP list.
Facebook allowed some high-profile users to break the rules. XCheck system whitelists well-known users who were given special treatment, the Wall Street Journal report says. Yes, I believe that as long as Level 1 has been doing the news, we've said that Facebook treats some people different than others. We know.
Is that everywhere? Like, I mean, Twitter's the same way.
It's like, there's no way that you're going to get this approved. This is against the rules. And then you talk to somebody at Facebook, and they're like, for you, it's probably all right.
So here's the scenario. Brazilian footballer
His name was in there, but it's gone now.
Neymar, I guess he just operates with one name. He must be really good. Had some sexual assault allegations made against him by a woman. So he got on Facebook and he said, no, that was consensual. Let me prove it. And then he held his phone up to the camera, scrolling through, showing the nudes that she had sent him. Now that is considered revenge porn by Facebook standards. She gave him the nudes, but then he shared them with the world. So by default, that should have been taken down. But when the moderators went to try to take it down, he's on the list. He's allowed to do these things.
Hey, it's just like real life where there are two sets of rules for the rich and powerful versus the rest of us.
So for
Yay.
2 days, they could not take down that girl's nudes. It was in a video, but still. And so now she has obviously responded to that, and they're in a tight place here. What do you do? And the people at Facebook that were interviewed under anonymity, they were like, the biggest problem with the VIP list, it just keeps growing.
Yeah.
We can't stop. They just keep adding to it. You think anybody ever falls off the list?
Yes.
Other than Donald Trump?
That's what I was going to say.
I feel like he took it to, like, how extreme do you have to be, though? Like, it seems like you can really just push it and push it and push it, and they just don't care.
No, I'm thinking maybe like because of age or obscurity or something like that. Do you ever get
Delisted.
You're not famous enough to be on the list anymore?
I guess you have to. Someone who's a D-list celebrity should try to do that. Like, slowly start posting more and more extreme content to see what the line is.
Don't do that. That's a terrible idea. Well, Facebook, for a couple of weeks in a row, definitely during the whole summer, we've been seeing this very contentious relationship they have with researchers. There were 2 different apps that researchers created and let people voluntarily take part in just to get data that they know Facebook will not give them. But Facebook does give data to some people. However,
Facebook made a big mistake in the data that provided to researchers, undermining academic work. So it has to be a random sampling. They went ahead and filtered results that they knew were not great. So it wasn't a random sampling anymore.
well, there was political data, and they left out anybody that the algorithm couldn't pigeonhole as Democrat or Republican. If the algorithm couldn't peg you in terms of your
But it's not random anymore.
not at all. It's cherry picked. Thus the researchers' anger. I wonder what's cutting those people out of the data. You think that would show maybe good things for Facebook, though, wouldn't it? It would show people who are in the median and not crazy.
Yeah, you would think that would actually work out better.
You'd
in their
want
favor.
more people. Who
Why
are
would they
somewhere in the middle.
pull that out? Are they looking for these headlines?
They're probably just dumb.
Maybe. It could have been an honest mistake. Just,
Never attribute to malice what can adequately be explained by stupidity.
And Twitter, the blue check, after so long, is back within your reach.
Oh, it's off again.
Oh,
Twitter reopens its account verification process after another pause, and it's paused again.
How many entries do you think they got the first day?
Like 1 million.
Why do people care that much?
My whole feed was like, I applied for, verified again, and they turned me down.
Because we're social animals, Krista, and it's screwing us up living like we are. We desperately need the pack. I mean, some people do.
Who needs? But the blue check is nothing.
It means something.
Does it?
Does it?
What does having a swoosh on your shoes mean?
Listen, I'm addicted to Twitter more than most people. I don't even care about the blue swoosh.
You wouldn't turn it down. Do you have one?
No, I don't.
Oh.
You have to apply for it. I think you have to give them a bunch of information about where you are and stuff. It's like, who wants that?
Yeah, screw that. I was barely able to get Facebook set up the other day.
I was reading that article, and you know what you have to do to register for the check now? Got to use the app. You can only register for the check through the app.
Well, I guess I'll have to buy a phone just to be able to.
A burner phone. Well, Wendell, one thing that, you've never really vocalized this, but contextually over the years, we've definitely gotten a feel that you have this very extreme feeling about public bathrooms.
Yeah.
And I imagine this really touches something, right?
Yeah, I don't.
Sets
just
you off.
Forget this. Devious lick, quote unquote, TikTok challenge hits Elk Grove and San Juan school districts. So the article missed this. There's a video that was going around on Twitter yesterday where the school principal comes on the thing and he starts out really calm and he's like, I understand there's a new challenge, whatever, and then he's like, somebody took the soap dispensers and he's just screaming into the thing.
It's not just bathrooms either, and this is everywhere because a lot of my friends in this area who are teachers have posted saying parents, please check your kids' TikToks. We're losing so much crap at school. One of my friends had bought snacks for his class, and he said he went to check the cabinet the other day, and they were all gone. They'd all been deviously licked.
Wait a minute. So devious licking is also theft? I thought it was just vandalism.
No, it's just theft.
Just that.
A devious lick. So you pull it, you take your TikTok video, and you're like, look at my hot new devious lick, and it's something you stole from somewhere.
But these people trashed the bathrooms as well.
Yes. Well,
I think it's just general, but I've always heard it in the context of theft.
I understood the bathroom trashing to be a side effect of trying to steal the soap dispenser.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably just got their blood up, their kids, and they just kept destroying. I can see that. Yeah.
I have to say, this is a horrible trend, but I do love the term devious lick.
It's great.
It's really good, yeah.
It's got all the hallmarks of a perfect online challenge.
Yeah.
It's mindlessly destructive. It's got a great name. It's entertaining. To be honest.
A middle-aged principal screaming into
Yeah.
the PA system will only encourage the behavior.
The authorities are completely baffled by it. That's an important part of it.
Yeah. The theft isn't cool, but what a great name, Devious Lick. Check out my Devious Licks.
I can only visualize Gordon Freeman with his crowbar, but he's got a sort of the deranged look in his eyes, and he's licking the crowbar. That's what when I read that, that's what I visualized.
Next time you steal some code from Stack Overflow, put a comment and it's deviously licked from.
And his pockets are just bursting with middle school snacks and milks.
cheesy crackers.
Oh man, this is the deviously licked milk from last year. It's now yogurt.
So yeah, wow, that's a terrible thing to do.
You know, this wouldn't be a problem if we had punishments like kidney harvesting after you do something like this.
Yeah, but those young kidneys, you need time to develop those.
I was trying to determine when I was reading about some of these stories. I saw the devious lick thing a little bit ago, but like, do you think that arose organically, and it's just kids being awful as you are when you were a kid?
Or was this a brilliant disinformation campaign from those Chinese people?
Yes, I was like, that's the darker timeline, but I was like, I don't think that's probably what happened, but you do wonder.
If we have these government agencies that work with our alphabets, or these companies that work with our alphabets, who are able to follow a single transaction through multiple blockchains, right? All the way back. How can they not track this down to the original hashtag?
It seems like that would be doable.
It seems like TikTok would just have that data, right?
If it turns out to be some operations group in a foreign country, does that result in a nuclear incident?
I don't think you nuke over this.
No, if that is what it is, and it's probably not. That is so insidious to be like, let's start training the youth to just destroy stuff now.
Tactical drone strike.
I mean, it's probably just kids being stupid. But
here's what we've got to do. Let's assume this was China and just go with it. We've got to come up with a viral challenge and we'll sell it to them as a way to fight back against the video game ban.
So what you're saying is we need to come up with something that's like the Pokemon Go game, but somehow targets critical electrical and fiber optic infrastructure in China.
Okay, you're on the right track. I'm going to swerve it a little bit, right? It's Pokemon Go, but all the Pokemon are in the Uyghur camps. So you're taking pictures of war crimes and stuff, and you think that you're playing a game. And then we feed all those back to our server.
Just a tiny little augmented reality icon there that's like, oh, you got it, good job. And then it's like, oh.
If you work in the government, we're available for hire.
All right, that's enough nonsense for today.
Dark. That went into a weird place. Anyway, that's the end of the episode. We will see you guys tomorrow. Bye. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Level 1 News. Today we're doing business and robot. And also, Facebook Marketplace is making a return at the end of the episode.
You got to stay till the end to see the hot Facebook things that Krista found. She actually gave us a couple of choices this week, and this was definitely the strongest, I feel. Yeah,
it's hard to beat the SpongeBob drawer. Like, I don't think I'll ever find anything that good again, but this one's pretty good.
We started on a high. But no, don't take that attitude, Krista. Take the attitude that, of course, people are that messed up.
And there will be weirder things still that will get on there.
Coffee instead of orange today?
I need coffee.
Feeling sleepy?
Just feeling...
Well, AMD, I don't think you could call them the kings of x86, but I would say the crown is contested.
For the first time in a long time.
But they are not resting on those laurels. They're saying, hey, we're ready to do it all.
AMD, they did this thing and they said, we stand ready to make ARM chips. It's like, by the way, we were ARM licensees before it was cool, all the way back to like their K6, K7, maybe even before then. AMD does actually have ARM stuff in some other designs. They're basically hinting here and saying, we could make ARM part of chiplet. You know, if the wind blows that we have a really good, efficient ARM design and the software and the entire rest of the industry wants to move that way, we totally can. It's just x86 has a lot of inertia. AMD's not going to develop the full stack for ARM software and hardware and everything else, but if there's a customer that needs ARM, we'll be glad to develop it. And AMD actually says we have customers that are real interested in this, and we are working with them on that.
And also, for the first time in a long time, you can confidently say that if you want a high-performance system, you can go all red.
You can.
You can go full AMD, and that's kind of rare, and they're loving it, and they're trying to give you more reasons to stay inside the ecosystem.
AMD Radeon Software, that's for your GPU, can now overclock your Ryzen CPU as well. The real push for this is laptops and devices where the cooling solution is shared between the GPU and the CPU. APUs also, where you've got both on one package. This can make a lot of sense because if you max out the overclock on your CPU, you can have less thermal overhead for your GPU, and the game performance overall could be worse. So one piece of software managing to find the right balance of pushing your GPU and pushing your CPU so that neither one of them are bottlenecking the other makes a lot of sense.
Do you think there's enough internal communication at Intel between the CPU and GPU divisions that they could ever accomplish something like that?
No.
Things would have to change there, I think. And I think they might.
Things are changing. Oh, they're changing.
Well, here's a rare design story, Krista, and it took a long time for this to happen. It's not a place that you would really think about throwing your designers at, maybe, but hey, it needed it.
Amazon gives Kindle e-readers a rare user interface. I missed this. I was looking for design stories this week.
How much more challenging is it to do this in black and white?
Not really. Some book titles would, or like the covers wouldn't translate well to black and white. Like they may be too low contrast, but like doing it in black and white, that's not too difficult.
It's still pretty basic, which honestly I think is the best thing for an e-reader.
Yeah, you don't need anything real wild. As long as you can get to everything you need, that's what matters. And they've got all the tools there. They got the font and beginner, which is the main thing, bookmark tool. I mean, they did it. It's fine.
Exciting, and all of the old ones work, I think. They all have the update. Which is probably why they didn't go too crazy with it.
I still want to do our open source ebook reader build video sometime.
But are you talking about buying one of those kits? Yeah. Although, once you start looking at the prices, it turns out they have them that are pretty similar. Honestly, I'm having such a great experience with Calibre. I don't care anymore.
What are you on your phone or what device?
No, Calibre server, which runs. It's the name of a fruit and/or vegetable.
Tomato?
Oh no, it's the guacamole.
Oh.
I was thinking of avocado. Guacamole is like RDP, and so it runs the Calibre server, and then you can access over HTTPS Guacamole to just read directly, like you're on the desktop.
I mean, but what device do you use? Like what device?
Surface, phone.
It doesn't matter.
Anything that's got a web browser.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's the way to go.
I've noticed that I've taken some of the extra surfaces that are like old and long in the tooth, and I just have like, I feel bad because it's like it could be doing so much more, but it's like this is this permanent home on my nightstand now. It does nothing else. But
Right, yeah. I read the news on this in the morning.
That's its sole purpose.
Maybe I'll watch a movie every once in a while. And I play podcasts while I go to sleep over Bluetooth. That's
it's like we've entered the world where like somebody having 10 computers, you could reasonably use all 10 of them. There's one of those in the bathroom. There's one of those in the...
So, AMD, obviously, they got all this cool new stuff, and the market shares are showing that more and more every week. And if you're Intel, you have to be asking, what are we going to do about this? Well, they have a plan, but I don't know how long it's going to work.
Intel is reducing server chip pricing to attempt to stem the AMD tide, report. So, yeah, these are the new ones. These are the new Ice Lake Xeons and some of the older Xeons that are also in the new generation, the Ice Lake generation, but still developed on 14 nanometer, so lower core counts. We actually did a video on this a long time ago, about a year ago, because the Skylake Xeons, which is the old socket, Intel was letting all the hyperscalers upgrade their servers that weren't 28 cores per socket to 28 cores per socket super, super cheap. So we were able to get some 18 core Xeons for a couple of $100, which is insane, which tells you that how much those hyperscalers paid for the bigger chips, which is practically nothing.
And this is not for you. This is for volume orders.
Yes.
If you remember Project Loon, I think we talked about that last week when we were talking about the cows, the flying cows. Project Loon was these balloons that floated and they would beam internet to one another so you could take them in places that didn't normally have internet. It was really cool. Well, they didn't catch on. That's been scrapped. But one part of the technology did survive, and boy, is it cool.
Alphabet's Project Taara laser tech beams 700 terabytes of data across nearly 5 kilometers, 20 gigabits. So there's a laser in there, but it can move around. So as the tower moves or the wind blows or things happen, it's able to maintain link. They said that it's still only able to maintain link 99.9% of the time, but using this as a way to augment fiber optic bandwidth meant that they were able to maintain the reliability of a fiber optic connection, because when the optical link is being a little bit flaky for a moment, those packets can travel over fiber optic. But that significantly increases the available bandwidth on the fiber side.
Well, Wendell, you're a big keyboard nerd, but
Just
how
a little.
important is latency to you?
I have no sense of rhythm, so it's fine.
Typing is its own rhythm, is it not?
No, if you've ever watched me type, it's like bzz, bzz, bzz,
You
bzz.
remember, they can pull certain things based on your thumb typing rhythm. Remember that attack?
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
think you'd be immune to that?
Maybe.
Is this just...
Because it's just random. Yeah.
Well, some people really do think that their mouse and their keyboard, the speed of that is actually what's causing them to lose at Counter-Strike. I don't know if that's ever been the case, but Razer says, hey, if you want it, we'll build it.
Razer says its new mechanical keyboards have near zero input latency. The Huntsman V2 has optical switches and an 8 kilohertz polling rate. Now, we've actually already got EVGA keyboards that have an 8 kilohertz polling rate, but the thing that makes this keyboard different is that it doesn't require debouncing. So with a mechanical switch, the key fires and then it unfires and then it fires again. It'll actually open and close a bunch of times in really rapid succession. This uses an optical mechanism, and they say that the optical linear mechanism means that it does not bounce. And that's where you save time.
And it's even faster.
Yeah.
How devastated are you going to be if you're a Counter-Strike player and you get this keyboard and you're still garbage?
It's not calibrated right. There's
I
too
need a
much
gaming
light in the
chair.
room. Turn off the lights. Well, Apple had their big event. There's a bunch of new announcements, and they're all just kind of the same thing. Just slightly better. They really didn't have anything blockbuster this year.
iPhone 13 Pro and 13 Pro Max announced with high refresh rate, 120 hertz displays. The other ones don't have that though. In terms of like, hey, did we upgrade the processor? We did. How much faster is the new one? It's about the same.
How many people can tell the difference between 60 and 120 on a phone while they're walking down the street in the sun? They also announced some changes to the iPad mini.
The all-new iPad mini announced with 5G USB-C and a larger 8.3-inch display, and also the Apple Pencil.
Which
That's
is almost
worth
as
it.
big as the iPad mini.
It is. I don't know if you're an artist, you're probably going to want to get the bigger Pro. But, I mean, maybe if you're on a budget, maybe the smaller one would be better. But it's cool that the Pencil works with it.
That's not the iPad mini. Which color would you choose, Krista?
Probably gray, which is what I picked for the iPad Pro. Because I was like, oh, I'll get sick of one of the other colors if I just do gray. I don't have to think about it.
And they updated the watch a little bit.
Apple Watch Series 7 delivers larger screens and more durability, and that's literally it.
Wow. Worth many monies. So many.
And a little bit of bad news if you are an Apple person.
Apple says motorcycle vibrations can damage iPhone cameras. The iPhone won't be picking up good vibrations if it's attached to a bike. So you could get a handlebar accessory and, film your ride. But apparently because of the mechanical componentry in the iPhone, that's really hard on that.
It's the thing in the camera that refocuses if you move. Because, the camera actually moves. Well, it turns out the motorcycle will just shake that to death.
Ooh.
So it'll just... They said even a scooter could do it. If you have a scooter, you might be able to put a dampener on it. But with like a big hog, forget it.
What if I wanted to mountain bike on particularly treacherous terrain?
It's, once again, antenna gate, Apple. It's like, you're doing it wrong. And it's like, no, you just designed a crappy product.
Chris, to answer your question, it wouldn't make a difference. It's not the suspension bounce. It's the engine, the rumble of the engine that gets you. Because there's, it's that tiny frame and the big engine. Now we're almost into peak motorcycle season, and I'm so glad that I'm not in my office to suffer that.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of motorcycle activity right outside my office. And there's a stoplight, and of course, all of you motorcycle riders, there's no need. We understand that when you do this, it makes a noise. We know. You don't have to do it.
The kids next door, they ride dirt bikes. They're not there all the time, but they come to visit like their grandparents on the weekend. And one of them just goes in the front yard. They have multiple acres. And they sit in the front yard and they just like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you?
No, he's doing
What are
that
you
because
doing?
he knows you're watching.
I'm not watching. He can't see me. I can just hear him doing it.
I
And I'm
noticed-
like, just go ride in the back. Like,
I noticed that in your deer video. There were motorcycle noises.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, there was someone mowing on one side, and then the kids were riding their dirt bikes on the other.
Well, Apple had a lackluster presentation this year. It's nothing that crazy. But they did get maybe some decent news in the whole Apple case, although, as we looked at more of the details, they didn't win as much as we thought.
No.
And, like all these stupid court cases,
Epic files appeal after loss to Apple in an App Store case. So Apple didn't win everything, and Epic didn't win. The only thing that Epic won was they were right in principle, but they still violated their contract. And so Epic has filed an appeal, and I'm sure that Apple will also appeal. But Epic did already go ahead and pay Apple the multiple millions of dollars. Was it $6 million or $60 million? It was a lot of money.
to them, it's the same number. I don't care.
I don't think the Epic Game Store and Apple, either one, are pretty happy with the result. But other developers, if you have an app and people take payment, you can now put a thing in the app that's like, hey, if you want to avoid the Apple tax, you can click over here, and that's completely fine.
So nobody's happy. Congratulations.
That's a good ruling when nobody's just like.
It's like splitting the baby in half when someone did that.
But the baby still operates. Although Fortnite will not be back on the store.
Yes, Apple has. It's like, oh no, it's a contract violation, which is funny because it's like, yes, Apple is guilty of doing something anti-competitive, but at the same time, Epic is guilty of a contract violation. How is that possible when part of the contract they violated was the unenforceable part?
Now, if you do Fortnite too, but you do it like Overwatch and you just make the same game over again, can you sneak that back in?
I bet you could.
I think they should be working on that right now. They literally just changed the title to Fortnite 2, and they're like, okay, we got a new game.
Well, you'll update it, a couple of models and stuff. But it's the Overwatch thing. Where
Yeah,
it's like, this
Overwatch
is
is supposed
literally
to be
the
more
same
like
game.
an extension, but yeah, it is more or less the same game.
Well, we learned last week or the week before how far Microsoft is going in Windows 11 to make you suffer if you try to stop using the default Microsoft products. For example, the web browser, you have to go in and associate every kind of file extension with your desired default web browser. But wait, the geniuses at Mozilla have figured something out.
Mozilla has defeated Microsoft's new browser protections in Windows. It's easier to switch to Firefox as a default now. So if you weren't running Firefox and you wanted to switch to Microsoft Edge, it was one click. One click would do all of those applications. So Mozilla looked at how Edge was doing that, which is undocumented, by the way, and they figured it out, and they have now built that into Firefox. So Firefox, Microsoft has an issue for this that Mozilla created in 2015, because this has been possible since 2015. And Microsoft has never responded to that. And with Windows 11 looming, and it's still uncorrected in Windows 11, Mozilla took matters into their own hands, which I can't say that I blame them.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Microsoft would like to go in and stop them from doing that. But then they have to give up the whole, we're working on it thing, right? They have to admit that they're doing it. And that's antitrust. So they probably can't. So they're probably very angry about that. Actually, the brass is angry about that. The engineers are like, oh, thank God, we can forget this. My God, that was so stupid.
I wonder if you're an engineer and you're working on this, and it's like, my bosses are behaving anti-competitively. How do I blow the whistle on this?
You think he just gave the code to the Mozilla developers in a plot twist?
Oh, that would be amazing. It's like they gave him the code and a printout at like a diner as like a clandestine meeting, and it's like, all right, here's what you need to have Mozilla pretend to be Edge.
It's a devious lick. Would you call that a devious lick?
That is a devious lick.
And then, just because it was a devious lick, they went in and trashed the diner bathrooms, tore it apart.
It would have been the perfect crime, too, if we had
spray painted a Windows logo in there. Well, SpaceX has done it. They've put civilians in space. Space tourism is born.
SpaceX launches the first all-tourist crew into orbit. 3 days in orbit. It was a billionaire, and the billionaire sponsored a couple other people, and one dude won it in a raffle.
And the young girl was a children's hospital physician's assistant or something like that.
Yeah.
She was like the PR move.
So we wouldn't get angry at the billionaire who's just chilling at
and
space
she gets to Zoom with her cancer kids from the space station.
That's a long distance call.
Yeah.
So that's cool. They get to spend time in that little window that we looked at. And yeah, like you say, they have a big schedule. You think if you were like, God, I could just use a nap. Maybe we shouldn't do this activity. Or they're like, no, you will do it. Do you know what this costs?
Got to keep you busy.
All I'm thinking about is like, well, I've had a really good time at the buffet, and then it's like, ooh, I have to go to the bathroom. Better put the suction cup on.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I bet you put that off as long as you can, all right?
yeah, probably.
Our next story is like really dumb.
Really bad. So we've learned that Amazon has launched their own brand of TVs.
It's fatally stupid.
And you would say that, well, God, I really don't trust Amazon. I don't know if I want to buy a TV from them. Well, let's make a list of companies we trust less. What number would this be? Like 2, 3? Be way up there.
Comcast will soon launch smart TVs under its new XClass brand. Cable company has partnered with Hisense. And so Comcast really thinks that they can offer something amazing, which includes 1 year free of Peacock. Because
is that not 0 rating?
Well, I mean, it's a free trial, so.
But who has ever said, God, I wish I could bring the performance of this cable box to other parts of my life?
I mean, if you look at this and you look at like what happened to the Locast thing, it's just, I mean,
it's weird that it happened at the same time, isn't it? Like
that, and also Comcast, like what Comcast plan are, it just seems like the definition of like antitrust, anti-consumer, spyware insanity. Like, why would you make people have to have a special TV when you're literally hemorrhaging subscribers? Wouldn't you want to go the app route where, you know, you have an XClass app that you want to run XClass, you can run that on an iPad, you can run that in your browser, you can run it on your phone, you can run it on Roku, you can run it on, you know, Kindle Fire. You don't need a special device for XClass, because I got news for you. XClass is a pile of garbage. Nobody's going to buy a TV just for XClass, except maybe idiots.
Well, I'll give you the answer to that question. And NBC's probably involved in this too. So satellite radio, right? They are very happy to give you that 6 months free when you buy a car, because when they do their financial numbers, they count every car on that lot as an active subscription. So you'll sell this at Walmart for $250. The unsuspecting will buy it. And then you'll say, oh, look at these Peacock numbers. Oh, look at the Comcast subscriber numbers.
If the App Annie thing is a $10 million SEC violation for securities fraud, that has got to be some kind of fraud.
But I think App Annie is small enough to fail, right?
But Comcast is hemorrhaging numbers so bad that they need to fudge this fake thing where all of the unsold Hisense TVs at Walmart now count as a Comcast subscriber. Is that what we're heading into?
If you are Comcast brass, right, you're part of the management team, then you've seen the numbers. You know how bad it is. You're trying to sell your shares and get your bonuses and get that parachute up before the inevitable happens. And the inevitable is probably what, like 2026, 2030?
Maybe sooner.
I was gonna say maybe sooner, but
we've been hemorrhaging 1 million subscribers a month for a while. There's not that many left.
Oh, there will be once all the Walmarts in the country count. The Theranos trial is going on, and my God, are we learning a lot of madness coming out of that. And I will assert she only has improved in terms of her looks, and she looks amazing in a mask. Not everybody does.
Theranos burned through $2 million a week as investors were given rosy projections. Jurors heard about mounting losses and fudge data from first witness. Fudge data. I think no, it was just made up.
Wrong.
100% fraud.
It wasn't fudge, it was pure cocoa.
Yeah, they could stop the trial right now, and she would go away for a long, long time.
What was she spending the $2 million a week on?
They were buying tests and people and equipment and flying around.
They were trying to fake and their lavish lifestyles. So she is a fraud, right? We can agree on that.
Yes.
I don't even think that's like any kind of slander or libel or anything. Do you know where she is living right now while she goes through this trial? It's called Green Gables. It's the most expensive house in that state.
Like Anne of Green Gables?
It's like a massive, she's not in the main house. She's at like a guest house, but it's a massive estate.
Huh.
I bet that guest house is probably as big as any of our houses.
Oh, amazingly opulent, I'm sure. And you could tell from a couple of the screenshots when the case started, she had a nice tan. Like she's been out at the pool all summer. enjoying herself.
Well, she's gonna have much of that left, so probably wise to enjoy
She'll
it
go to
while
like
it's
a
possible.
fancy prison or something, or
I
she'll
don't know.
have house arrest.
It looks bad for her now, but I think you remember the whole affluenza thing?
Yeah.
She is a prime candidate for that, but will she be a backlash to that? It is, I mean, you do look at this and you're like, what could that girl have done wrong? But that's
A lot.
That's the patriarchy. I recognize that. Also, a lot of Discovery is coming out with their text messages, her and her lover, and I'm kind of souring on her because maybe she's not as smart as I thought she was.
Yeah, there was a lot of really. This is easily a 2 or 3 rabbit hole if you want to go like really far down all the stuff that was presented. I mean, I feel like the prosecutors aren't even really trying a lot on this one, and they're just like, well, here's this, you know.
Well, her defense was going to be that he was manipulating her and controlling her and like, you know, dominating her. But the text messages, it sounds like she was really into it.
Yeah.
Unless that was like 7th degree Stockholm syndrome going on, she was into it.
So we're gonna do this, and it's like, oh, not so much, no.
Now, this one I included because how hilarious is this? Theranos was claiming to have technology that would revolutionize blood tests and bring them to the common people. It was all fake. But over in India, they got some like, you know, bottle caps and glue, and they're
Some
putting
redneck
together,
engineering?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're putting it together for nothing.
Portable analyzer brings blood testing to rural areas. Indian researchers create a Raspberry Pi-based device to monitor health. That's great.
Meanwhile, here in the U.S., how many thousands of dollars would it take?
See, I see a peristaltic pump, and
No venture capital is included in this image.
oh my god, it's an ATX power supply. That's amazing.
So these really rural areas of India, you might have to backpack to some of these houses, and these people don't ever get medical care. So the optical imaging in this thing, they're able to draw blood, and they're at the house. As long as they've got power, they can do some blood tests, and they're looking to add more and more. Cool project. It does take considerably more than one drop.
Yes.
Well, New York City, they made some decisions about gig workers, and obviously gig workers don't like it, or the companies don't like it, I should say.
DoorDash sues New York City over customer data customer data law. Second lawsuit in a week. So New York City has said for DoorDash, to prevent DoorDash from running ghost kitchens and all these other abuses that have actually happened, DoorDash must share actual customer information with the restaurants if they request it. And so DoorDash is losing their mind because that's the only leverage they have to continue to be in business.
And it's all the information, including the email address, which means that the store could then turn around and be like, hey, why don't you use our delivery service? It's cheaper. That is the problem with that business model, isn't it? AMC stock is still massively high. That's cracking me up because I'd forgotten about it. But then I read this story. It's like, oh my God, it's still high. It never went back down.
Apes never let go. Apes never sell.
Apes together strong. That's what you're looking for.
There we go.
Yeah.
And they are doing everything they can to lean into it. I mean, they're issuing shares, and then they're trying to come up with good promotions. This one's not terrible in terms of PR.
AMC ticket buyers will be able to pay in Ether, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash by the end of the year, the movie chain CEO says. This is on the market, the Business Insider website, I guess. So, of course, that sent, crypto was like, oh my gosh, ah! But most of the money that, people have invested probably came from that in the first place. So, I don't know.
It's going full circle. Not just tickets, also concessions.
It's fun, though. If you've got a reasonably recent video card, you could just let it mine for a couple of days and get a free movie.
There are other ways I could get those free movies that are a lot easier.
And don't involve dealing with other people.
And don't involve a risk to my respiratory
risk.
system. Yeah. But the thing about this is, like, you remember the guy that bought the pizza with Bitcoin?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like $30 million in Bitcoin at this point.
In 10 years, they're going to be people be like, if I didn't get that popcorn, I'd be a millionaire
That's
right
how
now.
I feel every time I buy popcorn at a movie theater. I'm like, if I didn't get that popcorn, I'd be $10 richer.
And when it comes to crypto, The big new world is NFT. Everybody's into NFTs, and there's a lot of accusations about money laundering and fraud and stuff like that. In one case, seems to be true.
OpenSea's product chief is out after insider NFT flipping accusations. So this guy was getting advance notice of what they were going to be listing for NFTs.
Well, no, he knew what was going on to the front page,
So
which
it was-
would get visibility
And so he would buy them ahead of time.
before it went to the front page, which is definitely not allowed. Although, in this wild west of markets, do you get in trouble with that? Yeah, it turns out you do.
Yeah.
You definitely do. And another thing about NFTs, let's say that I want to make an NFT of something that was from the past. Who owns it? What is the ownership structure? Who gets to create that NFT? If two people own it, how do you split that up? Well, you go to court.
Jay-Z's NFT feud spotlights legal peril and a hot investment trend. This is a rapper, and he's not sure how rights work.
So
This is Beyonce's husband. That's who that is.
I think he's more famous.
I
Right?
don't think so.
No?
No, absolutely not. Not anymore. Maybe he was initially, but
Young Hova? Yeah, well, I mean, his time was...
a long time. Beyonce's still on top.
But Damon Dash is the other guy. So together they co-founded the record company. And now that the NFTs are coming out from the albums, who gets to own all of it? Jay-Z says, it's my work. I own all of it. Dash says, I paid for that studio time. I get a piece of it.
Scary.
That's where you cut the NFT in half. And
That's going to have to be a thing in the future, right? You're going to have to put that in contracts. Like, if we ever make an NFT of this is how it gets split.
That's how merchandising. Lucas got merchandising because
Yeah.
they just didn't specify in the contract because who would care about merchandising Ewoks? I mean, come
and
on.
The Simpsons. Sam Simon got all the merchandising from The Simpsons because they was like, we don't care about that. Yeah, you can have that.
That would never happen anymore.
But with NFT, it might.
Yeah, with an NFT, yeah. But merchandising now, it's a huge market.
I think they changed this headline.
They did.
The real headline is the video headline. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it turns out that this was not the only big, shock the market thing this week, but this one, totally fake.
Crypto market mischief follows week of rising regulator scrutiny. So this was, oh my gosh, Walmart is going to take cryptocurrency. And then Walmart said, no, we're not. We are definitely not going to do that. They hired somebody that has a cryptocurrency background, but they came out and said, no, this is not going to happen. This is going to be a thing. So, of course, the markets went up and then they went down.
But the big giveaway here was they said they were only going to take Litecoin. Who would choose Litecoin? You would definitely choose Ethereum or Bitcoin, right?
Almost all of Walmart's suppliers are in China, right? They probably don't want to get into crypto.
We need to get the Ethereum gas fees down to pennies.
Well, there's all kinds of... You're going to get so many comments. It's like, I'm working on that. Because everybody's putting blockchains on top of Ethereum at this point. And there's a new one every day.
Scary.
Well, moving into the robot section, we are constantly looking at driverless tech. And when it first started, what was it, 2016, 2015? And they were like, yeah, it's coming in 2 years. Well, here we are. Where are they? We're not getting them. But now they're saying, no, they're still coming.
Walmart to begin driverless deliveries with Ford and Argo AI. Deliveries will begin in Austin, Miami, and Washington, D.C. later in 2021. X'd out. They're going to roll it out, and then they're going to say, oops, and then they're going to roll it back.
Yeah.
I wonder why those cities, because usually for self-driving stuff, it's always in the desert Southwest where things are kind of flat and dry and predictable
square.
conditions. Yeah.
They were already working on a couple of those cities, so that's why they're in a couple of those. They already had the testing there. But they did add a couple. And they might have added those because they thought the streets were easy. Or whatever.
I feel like DC, I've only been there twice, but I feel like driving there would probably be a bit of a nightmare. But maybe the AI can navigate it.
Yeah, DC's based on France, right? Because it's an anti-invasion tactic.
Yeah, I've been to D.C. and I've been on the driving end of D.C. and it is very not fun.
There's no straight roads to the center because it's an invading force is supposed to get confused by all the twists and turns.
I'm not an invading force, but I was confused when I was in DC.
Yeah, the only place I've ever driven that was I'm gonna have a panic attack. It was Boston. Same kind of design.
Probably just part of it too is it just wasn't designed for cars. If it's a city that old.
Yeah.
Well, moving on to the robot section, and the big hotness right now is climate change and all that stuff. What we're going to do about it, how can we affect it, and the legend Kyle Wiggers is here to tell us.
AI can now estimate corporate greenhouse gas emissions, and oh boy, it's not good. I like the picture.
But
Poor little guy.
The way the AI estimates it is it looks at what the companies say that they're putting out. And like looks at all the reports, and I was like, couldn't that lead to bad data? Because they're probably underestimating how much they're putting out.
Then the AI will have to learn that, more recent reports, they're even more off because they're trying to game the algorithm.
Yeah, I think the AI is supposed to try to, suss that out with its AI powers. But we're not sure how good it'll do. I'm sure we'll use it anyway, spend a lot of money on it, change a bunch of laws because of it. And the climate won't be helped at all. But people will get paid. Now, of course, deepfakes, nothing new. We've known about them for a long time. They did not destroy the world as many people predicted. You remember that whole nothing will be real and everything will be crazy.
I think that'll happen eventually, but it's just not good enough yet.
Slow burn? Well, you might be right, Krista, because it is getting easier to use, and barrier to entry is probably the big thing stopping it right now.
A horrifying new AI app swaps women into porn videos with a click.
They wouldn't even name it in the article because they were like, if we name it, people will use it.
But it's a website, and they call everything an app, but this is actually a website, and you upload your own pictures. And then it's kind of like, you explore videos. They got a video library, and you're like, okay, take this picture and then show me this video with these faces, and it all just happens immediately.
High school students are going to get a hold of this, and that's going to be the worst.
Yeah. Well, and the headline mentions women specifically, but they also point out it would be really bad in the case of like countries where being gay is outlawed, and then you get your face put on that kind of video. Yeah.
School administrators are also going to be not able to understand or comprehend this. It's like, what do you mean? This is you. This is obviously you.
And then they get put in a deep fake. And they're like, wait, that's not me.
Yeah.
The president of Brazil, he's got you hooked up to a car battery, and you're like, no, it's a deep fake.
This is like the funny side of this maybe is like we could have a new fodder for like a remake of The Man with One Red Shoe, or one of those where the comedian gets swept up as like the spy, and they're not, and that's why.
Pink Panther, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't a comedian. Robots. When we see commercial robots, more and more they are what they refer to here as snitch bots. This is much like the ones that we have that patrol public areas and look for undesirable behavior. And these, much like the ones that we also have, report directly to the police, and the police can take control of them directly and become them.
Singapore police to deploy snitch bots that search for quote-unquote undesirable social behaviors.
They're matrix bots. They're the agents.
Very early version.
Undesirable behaviors include more than 5 people gathered together, not wearing protective equipment for the thing. There was another really great one.
Homelessness.
Yeah. Just existing in public without spending money is a crime now.
I think maybe like smoking where you weren't supposed to. So this guy not only will report you, but he will also come over and show you a little video about why you shouldn't be doing whatever it is that you're doing. Just to let you know. Singapore, if you'll recall, is the country where they caned someone. But I thought it was for spitting, but I think it turned out to be chewing gum. I think.
Yeah, something with chewing gum.
Yeah, that is annoying. I don't know if you would beat someone until they bleed out of their ass for doing it. But
what about the bathroom vandalism? That would probably be okay, right?
You know what? You might need to move to Singapore because I bet they come down hard on that. You could be like the bathroom czar.
Improving society one clean bathroom at a time.
Well, you know who else is improving society? Old rich white men with probably some mental issues and a desperate need for validation. But I think some cool stuff's going to come from it.
A private space company is starting up, unlike others. Privateer Space from Steve Wozniak. Privateer sounds like pirates, though.
The video for this is just like the most generic marketing video you can imagine. Where it's just like pictures of the American flag and it's like together, synergy, space. And it's what are you talking about? There's no actual details in the video other than the name.
A privateer is a pirate with state approval.
Yeah.
So, do you think he has state approval?
How cool would it be if he's up there in space in orbit already when those tourists showed up? And he's like, hello, I'm a privateer. I'm here to take over your space capsule.
Do you think he'll go?
Probably.
He's an older gentleman at this point, right?
Yeah.
His health is probably not incredible. Mm. But he's an interesting character. He is, he doesn't anymore. I don't think he has the cult of personality that Musk does, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So maybe this will bring him back. Get back in the spotlight. And while you are in space, eventually we'll all just be doing space tourism, right? Why not? You'll be up there and it'll be kind of boring when you finally get up there and you figure out there's nothing to do. But maybe you could do this.
40% of people claim they would have sex with a robot, a study exclaims. It was a survey of 1,200 people. I'd love to know what the questions were.
I would love to know where they sampled this too.
Was this in California? Because if they all live in California, that makes sense.
I was thinking, like, was this a street survey in Las Vegas? Like, were they drunk or?
They did mention it was. I think it was a random sample, and they also it was degrees of questions. So, 32%. 32% said let's not worry about robot rights in terms of should they consent. Fine idea to have sex, and then some of them. 39% felt it was they could have a romantic relationship with a robot.
They've obviously seen the movie Her. Then yeah, right. I mean that's just
or Japan.
Yeah, that's an old trope. Well, it said women were also less likely to say yes.
I can't wait for Elon Musk to close the loop on this and to turn his own voice into the talking personality inside Tesla vehicles. And then for the Sun, a headline to be like, I fell in love with Elon Musk's AI, avatar.
I thought you were going to say Elon Musk fell in love with a robot version of himself and he divorces Grimes. He's like, I'm done.
No, that's from Rick and Morty.
And there's a terrible accident involving the charging port. Well, your robot that you eventually fall in love with will probably have a completely generated artificial intelligence. It will be a unique person, quote unquote, that's never existed before, just for you.
Social media influencer / model created from artificial intelligence lands 100 sponsorships. They're not real. Didn't this already happen with the Japanese singer that's a computer simulation?
Yeah, but I think the rate of success here was just atmospheric. Like, here she is, and the money starts rolling in.
So I wonder if they were like, what kind of brands did I wonder?
They said that they didn't try to make her particularly beautiful, although this is a very attractive girl.
Yeah, I don't know what they're talking about here.
And they didn't try to make her Western at all. They wanted her to be very, local. So, here she is having a cake.
It's not real.
She looks much younger in that picture. And then here she is just having a drink, I guess.
Having a smoothie, as you do on the gram.
She looks so happy. But she doesn't exist.
Just like the happy lives that all marketers try to sell you.
Yeah,
Store.level1text.com.
Her influencer life is only slightly less real than the other ones.
Yeah.
And our final story, which isn't even a story, is this week's Facebook horror product of the week.
I don't think this one's that bad. Electric gargoyle water fountain. It was originally $100. They're now asking $75 for it. I think this is kind of cool.
There we go. That's a nice looking house in the background there.
I think that they spray painted this.
The grass would seem to agree with you.
Yeah, we were trying to determine how it was painted earlier.
We've doxed this poor guy back here.
Oh, they've got another one for sale in the back there. I saw a post for it.
Thank God there was no license plate there because we would have had to deal with that. Yeah, it's definitely a gargoyle water fountain.
It looks kind of like not that it didn't start life as a gargoyle water fountain. It looked like like a Disney statue that they just put wings on or something.
The mouse. It's not centered on the base.
No, not at all.
That's some fine craftsmanship there, Lee.
I kind of like it though. If it was like $50, I might buy it.
I think if you offered him 50, you'd have that tomorrow.
Maybe I'll see, and then it'll be in my front yard. An atrocious weird thing from Facebook Marketplace in my yard.
I was telling Krista, you put a little red food dye in that water because it recycles the water, and
Yeah.
then some nice lighting on the face. You got yourself a solid yard item right there.
Nice Halloween decoration. Oh, what are you talking about? That's not for Halloween. I just want my house like that all the time. All right.
It's hard to go wrong with concrete gray.
You know, it looks a lot more like a bat than a gargoyle now that I'm looking at it. Don't you think?
Yeah,
It does
think
kind of
that's
look
a
like a
bat.
bat.
I think they bought a bat statue
maybe.
and mounted it.
I wonder if it's plastic under there. I wonder if the base is concrete and the top's plastic.
It almost seems kind of like a vinyl spray or something they put on it, or like a powder coat almost. So many questions.
Maybe it'll end up in my yard. We'll see. Anyway, that's it for this week's news. Or not this week. Today's news. We still have nonsense on Friday. So wait for that. Bye! Hello, welcome back to the Level 1 News. Today's September 24th, and today we're doing security and nonsense.
A weird combination that we don't usually get. But
It's like the most boring section with the most exciting section.
Security's getting more and more exciting because there's a lot more horrible things happening. And if you are someone who does a lot of developing online, you might be enjoying these new automation tools that all of the code websites are rolling out. Oh, look at all this cool stuff we can do. You don't even have to think about it. You might want to think about it.
Travis CI flaw exposed the secrets of thousands of open source projects. Developers furious at Travis CI's insanely embarrassing security bulletin. Oh, it's bad. It's real bad.
So basically, what happened is unintentionally, a lot of your cryptographic stuff could get leaked through these, despite you not setting it up that way.
Yeah, you don't store cryptographic stuff in the Git repository for security reasons. You can use tokens and environment variables, and the platform will keep it secure. The platform did not keep it secure.
Would you say they deviously licked it?
You didn't have to lick anything. They sent it to you.
It's my favorite new term. I'm going to be saying it all the time. In the wrong context as well.
They gave it out to everybody who was using the service accidentally. So that's unfortunate.
Whoops.
That really opens a lot of people up. That's going to ruin some weekends.
Yes.
For sure. And it's such a nice, right in the early fall, beautiful weekend. Krista, what's the camping schedule?
I want to go sooner than later. I was actually thinking about taking a week off soon. I don't know that I'd camp the whole week, but soon. Now that the peak fall color is in October.
Why don't you be hardcore and just camp while also working?
The connection's not good enough in the backcountry for that.
Solar powered laptop. Hey, you need to take the SpaceX.
Let's be honest here. We know that she goes to campgrounds that have outlets somewhere.
No, I don't.
Well,
I do take a battery backup sometimes, like a little battery pack, just to charge my phone.
Microsoft has for a long time been screaming about the death of the password, and it seems like they're finally ready to take that step.
Microsoft accounts go passwordless, posted on September 15th by Paul Thurrott. So you can turn this on your Microsoft account, and it's not like it's really truly passwordless. It's just that it's whenever you sign in, it remembers you, and it remembers you cryptographically. So it's not like stealing your cookies will let somebody else authenticate as you.
But it's basically multi-factor, but the one factor has been removed. Yeah. So you still have to have the authenticator. You can still do the face unlock. You have all these variety of ways that you can do it. None of them are passwords.
Microsoft's general trend is to try to use this kind of stuff for day-to-day access, but to make it where you only need your password whenever you're doing, critical operations or changing your configuration or enrolling a new device, which actually is probably better from a security standpoint because it makes it a lot harder for an opportunistic keylogger to steal your actual password.
Yeah, I don't know. Every time I need the sudo password, I got to go to SharePoint. Oh, SharePoint.
It is a pain, isn't it?
So, Apple had a pretty big flaw, and it affected literally everything that they sell.
Apple patches the NSO zero-day flaw affecting all devices. This was the zero-click iMessage thing where somebody could send you a malicious iMessage. You'd never know, and now someone in somewhere else, some other country, has control of your iPhone because that's just how we roll.
And several countries where you see this kind of thing, the big Pegasus countries, they've found them in the wild. Journalists, dissidents, activists, they're infected.
Now, big picture, do you think that this group would sell that exploit universally, or do you think they have tiers? So, like, once they've got a set of exploits that gets them into a phone, if that's the only one they have, they protect it religiously. But then they figure out another one, and then maybe that moves down the cost tier. And then they figure out another one, and then just any rando with a few $1 million can buy it.
I think it'll be the same business model as those early website theme payment sites. Remember? There's one price if we only sell it to you. There's a much lower price if we sell it to you, but then we go ahead and sell it to everybody.
So the exploit that has just been patched was probably one of those very low cost, and there's probably at least 2 other ones that are unknown, but that they're still using.
This was the silver tier.
Yeah.
You get tech support with this plan, but not the full concierge service that the platinum tier gets.
So that seems obvious to us, the bozos in the peanut gallery. I wonder if anybody at Apple is thinking along the same lines. Like, oh crap, there's probably 2 other things that are as yet undiscovered. Can we do any recon to figure out what those things are?
The problem is we've learned that the inside of Apple, it's kind of a situation where they don't like this stuff to be talked about.
Well, Apple has the capability to figure out which customers were affected by this. It seems like they could use those same customers to look for other indicators of compromise. Because chances are whoever was interested in the president of France is probably still interested in the president of France. What weird stuff is his phone doing could clue you into what those other things are.
It's despotic targeted advertising.
There's some engineer who's had all those thoughts that you just described, but he was like, it's the weekend. It's a beautiful fall weekend.
That sounds like a Monday problem.
Yeah.
It's the weekend, and I work for an evil corporation that doesn't care about me.
It can wait.
I'm just saying, if Apple really cared about security, they have a lot of tools here to proactively detect and take action against these things. Just saying.
If Apple really cared about security, they'd trash their product line.
Well, they would at least hire some people that knew what they were doing as far as like bounds checking and, that kind of thing.
Well, another big name, although it's always funny to see these old camera companies. And it's like, oh, yeah, they pivoted. They did it.
I remember when we covered Kodak. And it was like, Kodak was hit by ransomware. And they're just like, I don't know what to do.
So here's another name.
Technology giant Olympus has been hit by the Black Matter ransomware. It's too bad it wasn't Revil, because Revil released the key to decrypt you if you were affected by it prior to September 15th.
This was multi-continent. Europe, Middle East, and Africa were all hit. That's a hell of an infection. Good luck, Olympus. Oops. A preview. So, Wikipedia. They've got these sort of localized Wikipedias, obviously. So, like, China doesn't have one, obviously, because the Chinese can't get to Wikipedia. But the Chinese diaspora, it's diaspora, right? Or is it diaspora? I think it's diaspora. Especially those in Taiwan, which are already a little bit of a hot button issue, love to use Wikipedia local China. But there's a dark side.
Wikipedia bans 7 Chinese users amid concerns of infiltration and physical harm. Removes sysop privileges for another dozen and warns more about doxing, and frets about preserving freedom to edit in the face of hostile regimes. So basically, those people, like in Taiwan, would make edits to Wikipedia, but may expose themselves to other people that would do them harm.
And those other people were actively trying to get them to expose themselves. They're trying to use the internal structure of Wikipedia to try and dox other people who were trying to put facts about China and Taiwan on that Wikipedia. And they were fairly successful. What a horrible job.
Yeah.
South Africa has also suffered a ransomware, and it seems to be pretty crippling.
Ransomware encrypts South Africa's entire Department of Justice network. So that's the dockets, the cases, email, everything.
Krista, what would a South African IT person who has to deal with this sound like?
I don't think I've ever heard a South African swear.
Yeah, but you do the South African accent. That's what I'm trying to get out of you.
I can't do the South African accent.
How disappointing.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.
Is that you trying to do the accent?
No, not to do the accent. It's just like, it's been 3 days and they're still down.
Oh, yeah. And things happen very slowly in some of those African countries.
Yeah.
Like, we're used to things happening quickly, and they're like, what are you talking about? We got weeks for that to happen. It's like, but it's a blood transfusion. No. This one's terrifying. Oh, boy, is this one terrifying. And I don't see much hope of us avoiding this.
Nope.
Because the way that they're selling it is to get governments free money. And when you offer governments, especially local governments, free money, they will always take it.
New tolling systems are poised to hit highways. Basically, at this point, we can just strap a Raspberry Pi onto some, highway signs with some zip ties. Put a battery there. It'll run for months and months and months, scanning every single license plate. That's the era that we've entered in. With $35, and you can scan every single license plate on an interstate in real time.
They want more than that. They want a module in your car or in your phone. Now, the reason for this is because the way we pay for the highways is through a gasoline tax. But all of a sudden, there's a lot of cars on the road, maybe not a lot, but a decent amount, that don't use gasoline. How do you tax them? Well, they want to do it like a Tatler in your car with a per mile charge.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's a good thing they're so good at protecting data, because then all of my location data would be in the government database.
As if it's not already.
Yeah, that's probably true. So you can also choose an annual fee, which would probably be more than you would end up paying unless you drive a lot, to not be spied upon, which is another way. It's a convenience tax.
Cost of freedom is high.
Literally. Very high.
In this proposal, it's $120 a year.
The Tree of Liberty must be replenished every few years with lots and lots of greenbacks.
And gasoline tax. Anonymous continues to do some activist hacking, I suppose. And this time the far right is its target.
Anonymous claims to have stolen a huge trove of data from Epic, the right-wing's favorite web host. It's probably all of its data. Apparently all of its data has been lost.
And not just like the data of the sites, but like the billing data and stuff too. So if you were trying to hide who you were as you hosted a right-wing website, you're going to get exposed. Every time the far right people try to do, it's like, I'll build my own version of that. They're just so bad at it.
It ends quite badly.
Remember the MyPillow guy's Google site?
Yeah.
And he hyped that up and got venture capital and everything. It's astonishing. So if you get deplatformed, I feel for you, but you really got to vet your replacement web host.
It does seem like maybe the problems that they just tried to spring up too fast. Maybe eventually someone will get it right, but
maybe. I don't know. But it's so hard. They have to do it without any help from anybody else, payment processors or anybody.
yeah.
So I'm sure it's very difficult. Here's an amazing story. I don't know what the laws are across the pond there, but is this not entrapment?
I don't think that this applied for that, but could be wrong.
I feel like this should be entrapment.
Every message was copied to the police. The inside story of the most daring surveillance sting in history. This is a follow-up to a story that we had a week or two ago. It's in Australia, and this was the phones that were like sold as, this is secure. It's end-to-end encrypted. You can only order these phones. They're like $2,000 each.
This is different than the one. The one we talked about previously was like a device that anybody could buy. This was only sold like under the table.
Oh.
You had to know somebody to get this.
Yeah, it turns out that was just a police operation the entire time.
Yeah, the guy you had to know was an undercover cop. But they sold a lot of them, and they ran the service for a long time. I mean, it was like millions of messages, tens of millions of messages.
What a great photo as well, illustration for this article.
Anam was the name of the the phone. These phones did not operate as phones. They didn't call. They didn't do text messages. They didn't get on the web. You'd open the calculator and put in like a secret algorithm formula to the calculator, and it would launch the dark web messaging service. So these guys probably felt really cool when they were doing this. What they're really doing was playing themselves. They got it's funny because obviously they waited a long time to play this hand till they got a court case they felt it was worth. It was giant bundles of cocaine hidden under a transport ship. And they were going to Australia. They estimated it would be worth $50 million.
Wow.
Although they usually estimate crazy high with law enforcement and drugs. Never buy drugs from a cop because they're going to charge you too much.
Pro criminal tip.
Here's a cautionary tale from NBC News. I'm not bothered by this because I don't care, but it is a big question. To opt out of this, you have to do it all yourself.
Yeah.
And you still have to pay these stupid taxes, which I hate.
Hackers are leaking children's data, and there's little that parents can do. NBC News collected and analyzed school files from dark web pages and found that they're littered with personal information of children.
So what do you do here? Do you start giving your children like a hash and just refer to them as that?
Bobby drop tables.
Maybe Elon Musk wasn't that insane, naming his kid a bunch of random characters.
Just pop a QR code onto them. Imagine the absolute bedlam that would result when the kids figured out they could swap the QR stickers.
I saw a post this weekend on a developer forum. It was a big bank. It was a bank that is local, and you've heard of them. In their online portal, you could enter an alias for your different bank accounts so that you could label them. They used an emoji for one of them. Not only did it make their account completely inaccessible, it shut down all of the other accounts in the branch. Like, they couldn't use the computers in the branch to query a list of accounts because
there was an emoji and it was unexpected.
Yeah, there was an emoji in the it was like customer name for the account, and it was, an emoji, and the system could not handle that.
I hope it was something really childish, like eggplant or something.
It was just, and they were like, "Did you do that on purpose?" And they're like, "Yeah, I thought it would be funny." And they were like, "Don't do that. Don't do that again."
Haven't we seen at least one person legally change their name to an emoji at this point?
Oh, maybe.
I think we've seen that.
So that would be a really funny way to deal with that as a parent. It's like, all right, Billy, legally your name is going to be the eggplant emoji because we don't want your information to leak onto the dark web.
I'm going to make your life a misery. Everything you do is going to be a joke and a target, and you're going to grow up totally screwed up, but your bank's going to be totally secure.
I don't know if you explain that to 12-year-old me, I'd probably be on board. I was like, I'm willing to suffer through that because
do I get to pick the emoji?
The other side of that is darker.
No, you don't get to choose it, and it's poop emoji.
Oh.
No.
We have a new botnet out there, and they are pulling off a DDoS, and of course they're going after the very people that might uncover them.
Krebs on security hit by huge new IoT botnet, Maris. Yeah. Oh, that's not good.
These are routers, I think, right? Routers that are compromised, and a lot more of them have just come online. Got quite a bit of bandwidth going there.
All those baby monitors in, just outside of Kiev are really starting to add up.
21.8 million bogus requests per second. And then you could bounce that off of DNS. Good times. You mentioned this earlier. We finally have a universal solution to the Revil ransomware. But as you can see, there's so many more to replace it, so it probably doesn't matter.
Free Revil ransomware master decryptor released for past victims. If you were affected by Revil before September 14th, 2021, this will be the thing you need.
There's some small office out there that got ransomware in early August, and they're like, "No, we're gonna wait. We're gonna hold it out." Now they're feeling good.
There's gonna be a case where like somebody had a bunch of Bitcoin that was ransomware. They couldn't pay the ransomware because it was, ransomware. And then 2 years later, they come out with the decryption thing, and they've either lost the data or forgotten about it or something else. And so it'll be like panning for gold. It's like, oh, I found this data set that was encrypted, and then I happened to run this thing on it, and now got all this, cryptocurrency.
You'll be able to get maybe 20, 30 Bitcoin out of it, which at that point will buy you a liter of clean water.
What a joy.
And the cows, as delicious as they are and as much as we love them, they do burp and fart a lot. And that's annoying to the planet. So what can we do about that?
Researchers toilet trained cows in hopes of reducing their greenhouse gas emissions. So they taught them to pee in a trench that would prevent the ammonia from escaping into the soil, and it worked. It worked really well. They potty trained them from birth, and that was very effective.
Hey guys, I got this crazy idea. Are you just raising us to kill us?
Yeah. That kind of, it's great that they potty train, but it's also like, doesn't that mean they're more intelligent than we initially thought?
Yeah, they do refer back in that article over and over how intelligent the cows are. The way they did it is, like if they would put you in the room with the pad, and as soon as you pee, you get a treat. And then they put you out in the field, and as soon as you pee, they spray you with a water bottle.
Oh, just like what you do with the dog.
It worked, but they are trying to figure out a way to mass train cows like that. Although once you train an entire flock of cows, a herd, cows are herd, right? Don't you get that 100 monkey scenario where they'll just start
training
copying
each other?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then the babies would learn that from birth as well.
Pretty sure this is also the beginning infrastructure of the Matrix, where we just do this by robots. Like the robots just auto train the cows, and then who's
they
training
eliminate
who?
us?
Yeah.
Do you think there will be a premium on potty trained cows at the livestock auctions?
I think it's probably going to be like carbon credits eventually. Like you have to have so many potty trained cows to get your carbon credits.
One cow is holding you back and you're trying to reason with it. The farm is going to go under.
I think we could sell the rights to that to Disney. Could be like a new Charlotte's Web type thing.
Oh, yeah.
Children's movie.
A young cow that like pees in the hay while it's sleeping, and it's like, no.
I'm a young independent cow. I can pee wherever I want. It's like, no, you got to conform.
That'd be a children's book. That's a children's book in the making.
And he burps and farts constantly. Kids would love that.
Yeah.
Oh, we got something here. Although the ending would be sad.
Yes,
Yeah.
the ending would be very sad. But that's the circle of life.
He goes to live on another farm, happily ever after. Don't worry where he's going.
They made it work in Lion King. We could probably make it work here.
Another farm called Outback. Ruth's Chris. Krista, you are a big fan of Jurassic Park.
I am.
And this story is interesting because they are literally doing the exact same thing.
There's, in the book, this doesn't happen in the movie, but in the book, he has the proof of concept for his investors is a tiny elephant.
Oh.
And what's funny is that the investors are all blown away. They're like, wow, look at the tiny elephant. But the elephant's like super aggressive. It gets sick all the time. Like it always has a cold. And they hide that from the investors. And then the investors are like, well, let's just do dinosaurs.
Oh, man, I can't wait for woolly mammoths just like snot dripping out of them, just running down the interstate, just smashing cars back and forth. It's going to be amazing.
Firm raises $15 million to bring back woolly mammoth from extinction. Did we do this story? We may have done.
They've been talking about this, but they have now gotten the venture
actual
capital.
Yeah,
they got the 15 mil. So,
paywalled.
They actually showed the chart. Literally, substitute dinosaur for woolly mammoth and frog for elephant. That's what they're doing.
Yep. It's almost like they watched the movie and we're like, let's lift the artwork here. It's perfect.
And they say that these giant animals are really good for ecosystems, but are we going to get that much out of them? Are we going to eat them eventually, I guess?
I think the idea, I don't know about woolly mammoth specifically, but like they've talked about like reintroducing wolves to Yellowstone caused a chain effect that like made everything a lot better, weirdly enough. Like it reduced the deer population so there was more vegetation and so more smaller animals moved in. So I don't know. I don't know what woolly mammoths would do. They probably don't either. Really.
Do you think they can be potty trained?
Absolutely.
That's
if a
what's
cow
important.
can. Yeah.
Elephants are smarter than cows, right?
Can we train the cow, or can we train the elephants to potty train the cows, since the elephants are smarter than the cows?
Or the woolly mammoth to train the elephant, who then trains the cows.
What if the woolly mammoth becomes the ultimate like herd animal? Like you can, if you get 2 or 3 woolly mammoths, you can maintain a herd of 1,000 cows.
It's going to be tough if they're anywhere near a road.
What if we accidentally introduce a thing to the woolly mammoths where they actually take carbon out of the equation? Like somehow they have like a reverse, burping and farting process where they actually capture carbon.
They suck up all the fart gases.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. Disney. Man, I bet right now we're getting to the most magical time to go to Disney, right?
Because no one's there.
The evenings are brisk. The days are wonderful. The lines are short.
I don't know if that's true in Disney, California, or in Florida.
Well, it's going to be better than August, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
But it turns out there is a way to have an even more VIP experience at Disney. How do you do that? Well, you've got to know Tony.
Man with stolen Disney iPad caught giving a tour at Hollywood studios, deputies say.
Deviously licked Disney iPad.
So here's the scenario. Some unidentified guy is leading a tour group at Disney. And he's got the iPad. So these magic iPads that they use at Disney, you can just move yourself to the front of any line. Just skip everything because you have like the master switch in your hand. That guy was not a Disney employee.
That's just Dave from accounting.
So they went to the parking lot and they questioned him. And he was like, yeah, Tony gave me this. And they're like, oh, Tony. Apparently they know Tony. So I get the impression that Tony is maybe like an organized crime guy. And he has a deal with people. He's like, oh, dude, let me take you to a full Disney experience. It won't cost you a dime. And he steals an iPad. He sends out one of his underlings to be your tour guide. It's so great.
This displeases the mouse, but it is great.
Before next year, this becomes a sanctioned Disney activity. Like if you pay the $5,000 and you get the VIP package, they just do this on their own.
I think you can do that, actually.
That's why it exists.
But the guy who was working for Tony, he didn't realize that his iPad was stolen, or at least he said he did.
Wow.
What a fun day. Going around with the mob in Disney.
I wonder who the software engineer was on that. So it's like, we're just going to make it to where it's drag and drop. We could just reorder people in line. Yeah, why would we need that feature?
Oh, I bet there was at least one engineer who made it correctly, and they're like, nah, this is too hard to use.
Yeah.
Do you know who we hire around here?
Has that been a feature for a long time, you think?
Probably.
Like the line skipping?
Yeah, well, they didn't have the technology to do it automatically like that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they had some kind of wristband or something.
I have a friend who loves theme parks, but she hates line cutters. And I feel like if she saw someone do that, she might lose her shit in line.
You can pay your way to the front anyway, right? There's a special kind of thing.
Fast pass. I think most theme parks have that.
Well, here's a headline that speaks for itself, and it's just like, wow.
I hate this.
Where have we come as a society?
CNN Business reports that a cigarette group has taken control of an asthma inhaler maker. That's Philip Morris. Philip Morris is getting into lung health game because they see the writing on the wall with the anti-lung health game.
They made lots of customers, and now they're buying something new to sell to those customers.
They're hoping that they can EpiPen this, where they take the ordinary asthma inhaler and turn it into something that you have to pay $1,000, $2,000 a month for.
It's already pretty expensive to get an inhaler.
Would you put 20 of those in a convenient hard pack? You can pop in your pocket?
Inhaler Reds.
It's 20, right? You get 20 cigarettes in a package?
I think so.
I think that sounds right.
Do you think that cigarettes suffer from shrinkflation? Have they made cigarettes smaller ever?
I don't know. That's probably a good question for Chad.
Well, we know how bad it is when the power goes out at chip fabrication plants. You don't just lose that day's work. You can lose a massive amount of work because it takes a long time for this to happen. When you take the power out of it, destroys everything, which is probably why these people are furious.
Stray balloon triggers chip-making outage at Infineon plant. So it wasn't just, we should go get that balloon. It was, we've lost the entire month's batch.
Wow.
A Mylar balloon with helium in it just happened to run out of helium on a substation and just happened to short two very important pieces of equipment.
This definitely wasn't some sort of intelligence operation.
You think, how hilarious would it be if it was a balloon with Winnie the Pooh on it? Greetings from China.
It's a little too on the nose.
China sends its regards.
Welcome to the 100-acre woods.
We got to turn that into a mouse pad. Welcome to the 100-acre wood.
And Airbnb. Chris, you did a little bit of Airbnb-ing recently, didn't you?
Not recently, but I've rented an Airbnb before.
Had a good experience with it?
Yeah. I've only done it like 2 or 3 times. But.
Did you rock out to any of your weird musical tastes while you were there?
No.
Well, I think maybe that was the fear here, although I think it might also just be discrimination straight up.
Airbnb host denies metal fan lodging due to disturbing music taste.
Okay.
Death Blooms, I'm not hip to Death Blooms.
No, I've never heard of that.
But they describe them as aggressive, expletive-filled, and something else, and locked them out. Now, Airbnb says that you can do this. This is allowed under the Airbnb rules
well, it's
of
not a
engagement.
protected class like Metalhead isn't.
We just want us somewhere to sleep. We weren't going to do any kind of blood sacrifice or anything. It's fine.
It's not clear how they figured out this person was into this band, but I guess maybe they told them because they were coming to town to go to a show. Death Blooms, to their credit, have taken advantage of this. They're marketing a new shirt. And if they sell out, they will pay for this woman's hotel.
Nice.
Wow.
That's the quote that the Airbnb person said about Death Blooms.
We should make a t-shirt of all the worst YouTube comments we've ever gotten.
Don't encourage them.
And here's a ominous sounding thing that will happen. It would suck because, this is going to be like a short straw kind of thing, isn't it? It's like, guys, I gave a pint yesterday. I can't go again.
Astronaut blood can be used to make concrete on Mars, scientists say.
This has the same vibe, but some of you may die.
Why would we be testing for that?
So we're constantly trying to figure out how to build on Mars. Obviously, when you are loading up the spaceship, the paving bricks have to get left behind.
This was not in the Matt Damon potato movie.
Well, he didn't do a lot of building. So they're saying, well, you know what would work great? That Martian soil, if you just have like a binding agent, you could make some really cool stuff. You know what binds great with Martian soil? Human blood. And
Now-
urine.
Into
Now-
the red planet.
Yeah, I was going to say, I presume they tested urine and poop and that it didn't work as well.
There you go. That's pretty much what it will look like when you're done. Looks like poop, doesn't it?
He's making a pinch pot. Like when you're a kid and you do your clay unit in art school.
So, obviously a brick made of urine and blood and sand probably wouldn't be too fun to hang out with and be in the same room with. So what they're talking about doing is you get a protective, sealed environment, and then you mud over it with this. And that's radiation shielding and shielding from the harsh Martian winds.
Okay.
That's
And,
interesting.
Does that make female passengers more valuable on the trip to Mars? Young female passengers?
Maybe.
It's like, Janice, you got pregnant? Now we can't finish the house.
Well, I think they require you to be on some sort of contraception while you're up there. But maybe they would stop.
Well, NASA might require that, but Musk ain't going to. Not on the generation ship.
Yeah.
We've been collecting blood the whole way to Mars. It's just like,
Giant blood tank. Yeah. And then we encounter the aliens and they scan it and they're like, what?
That's actually. Now I'm curious. Would regular blood straight from the tap be better, or would menstrual blood be better? For
Probably
building?
straight from the tap because you're looking for a binding agent, right?
Yeah.
oh, Lord.
Engagement challenge.
Look for the clickbait video coming soon.
We're going to have to come up with a good title for this one.
Oh wait, that.
No,
this
I
episode?
was just, I think for this episode, the news has to be something to do with that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we did a story last week and I was like, is this the same school? Turns out it's not.
It's a different one.
The other school had more of a cat girl problem, but this one seems to be more dog-based furriness.
Northern Kentucky Middle School wants students to stop barking and wearing collars. Camp Ernest Middle School, I guess, got a little bit of a problem.
Yeah, they're a little bit disturbed by the fact that a lot of the students seem to have gone furry. These guys chose the K9.
Now that I think about it, I wonder, this is happening after a year and a half in isolation. Is this middle school students trying to revert back to a simpler time when they were children and they used to pretend to be animals.
We want to make you aware of some of the observations we've made this year. They mentioned TikTok. That does seem to be what's moving all of this.
Encouraging students to destroy soap dispensers in the bathrooms.
Oh, that's the...
What's the other one?
What's it called? Devious lick?
Devious lick.
You're stealing in general is devious lick.
Do you think you're more likely to devious lick if you're dressed as a furry? Does that give you confidence?
You might be too childlike.
Lick could go both ways.
Right? Ooh woo.
Gordon Freeman with licking the crowbar. Just
While maintaining eye contact.
yeah.
Well, we have two stories about criminals with phones this week. One of them, the law enforcement got the upper hand, but the other one, the criminals took it back.
The unhackable phones given to prisoners by the Scottish government were hacked by drugs.
This is why you don't let people have phones when you're running Prison Architect.
Isn't it cruel and unusual punishment to make me use that phone in prison? So they tried to lock them down, I guess because of the pandemic. You couldn't get visitors, right? Mm-hmm. So they were like, well, we got to give them some kind of communication with their people. So this is what they come up with. The guys at the prison said it took them basically most of an afternoon to figure out how to hack it. And they were sending messages to whoever they want, including drug dealers.
Great.
That's why you gotta have the double fence in Prison Architect as well.
Then you got drones.
That's not a feature in the video game.
Oh, uninstall. Well, Krista, you love Middle Earth, but you're not really dedicated to it.
Not really, no.
You really need to step up your game, to be honest. Like this man.
Lord of the Rings actors praise Italian man who lives as a hobbit. What a dream. He must be independently wealthy.
No, they said he works as they gave his profession. Oh, paywall. It wasn't anything crazy.
But he just lives in a hole.
Pastry chef. Yeah.
Oh.
37-year-old Italian pastry chef.
That feels very on brand for a hobbit to work in a food-related industry.
And he looks hobbity, don't it?
He does, yeah. Well, he's got the costume, too.
How tall do you think he is? They didn't say.
I can't tell. Maybe he has... I wonder if he has smaller furniture made for his house.
Yeah, because it looks like that thing in the back there is normal sized.
I don't know.
Anyway, he's got 4 acres, and he's raising money to convert it all into a shire. And Elijah Woods and some of the other actors who were hobbits have weighed in, and they don't think they give him any money, but they encourage other people to.
We don't want to do this. We don't want to encourage this, but it is kind of cool.
Now, there was a time when those guys were kind of trying to put that behind them, right? They didn't want to be typecast. It seems like they've turned around and just embraced it.
Yeah, I think at this point they've all had careers outside of Lord of the Rings, so now they're like, we can talk about it more.
They've pulled a Nimoy.
Yeah.
Which is, you hate it at first, and then at the end of your life, you just completely identify with it and direct one of the movies. The idea of getting your brain frozen, would you consider it?
No.
The reason I wouldn't consider it is all these stories we've heard. Who was the baseball player that did it? The famous one. There's a famous story about someone going to the cryogenic center and they needed to do something in a closet, maybe a server closet or something, a refrigerated closet, and they went in and his head was sitting on top of a bulk tuna can. Like you would get at a restaurant.
It's fine.
And they're like, well, wait a minute, that's so-and-so. It was labeled. And I was like, wait, but he paid a lot of money for that. You don't know what's going to happen to your parts after they've been frozen.
The scorned wife has raided their ex-husband's cryogenics lab, stealing the frozen brains of people who hope to be brought back to life. Okay.
Yikes. So there's a divorce. They were co-owners of the business. The business split into 2 different businesses. And now there's an argument about who owns the brains. She didn't like how that was going, so she showed up, grabbed the brains, loaded them up into a van.
What could possibly go wrong?
Well, he described the liquid nitrogen canisters that were knocked over during the raid were the liquid nitrogen that should have been taken with her to keep the temperature low enough to guarantee the viability of the brains. So probably they got too warm. Probably. But we don't know because
No one's actually ever done that?
It'll be at least a few hundred years before that would even be remotely possible.
And I don't think these brains will make it that long.
No.
Probably not.
I think these will be compost long before then.
Probably.
Prime compost material.
You know what else is prime compost material? Nah, actually, you shouldn't.
No.
You shouldn't fertilize your lawn with your own waste, which is what I would think would come from this.
Taco Bell tests 30-day taco subscription to drive more frequent visits. Listen, it didn't work for MoviePass. Why is it going to work for Taco Bell?
What about Panera with their Coffee Pass?
The Coffee Pass is a great deal, but the Coffee Pass has the upsell that you buy a lot of other things.
Well, so does this. Who is going to go and get one regular taco at Taco Bell? Maybe Krista.
Yeah,
Even
I'm
Krista.
kind of an outlier here because I tend to get small meals. But
I don't. The regular taco is just it's trash.
And I bet you can't upgrade it to chicken.
Probably not. Or Supreme, or Chicken Supreme.
You think you could go soft?
No, maybe. Probably you could do soft.
it's making me hungry.
I don't know. I like Taco Bell, but I couldn't be bothered for one taco a day.
What bugs me most about Taco Bell is it costs exactly the same as like the good Mexican restaurants, and it's just such a better meal experience.
Yeah, the Mexican restaurant is such a deal that a chain could never compete with it.
Yeah.
But maybe you live in a part of America that doesn't have those Mexican restaurants.
I'm always blown away by the Euros who are like, oh, we don't have a lot of Mexican food around where I am. And I'm like,
They have
you're
Turkish.
oh, yeah. They have that instead.
That's their Mexican restaurant.
But to be fair,
the
we
kebab.
have the Greek place down the road.
Yeah, we just got the one.
Yeah.
So, also 30 Taco Bell tacos in 30 days. How much salt is that?
That's a lot of salt.
You're gonna die.
Nah, people.
Like when I was in college, I liked Taco Bell, and I probably got it like once or twice a week. But
It's actually staggering sometimes when you talk to people and find out how often they eat fast food.
yeah,
Some people every day. Like Chris Chan, his whole family, all they ate was fast food.
That's crazy.
I could see that like 10 or 15 years ago, but fast food is so much more expensive now,
Yeah.
and it's like it's just not worth it.
So also, I watch a lot of the freak shows. The 600 pound live people and the 2 large people, they get it delivered, and they'll go through their McDonald's order because it's shocking. It's got to be $40 worth of stuff, and that's one meal.
Wow.
I don't know how they pay for it. Well, actually, the one girl I do know how she paid for it. She had a fetish site,
Oh,
so they were literally just like it was a vicious cycle of horror. God, it's a good show. Devious licking. Is it devious licking?
it's devious licks is the word. I think
Devious
it's funnier
licks.
to say devious licking as in like a verb, but
Devious licks are one trend. Maybe they're the stronger trend, but don't get it confused with this trend, which is quite similar.
Concerns over kids buying baked beans as beaning trend goes viral. What does it mean to bean? You get a can and you bean it.
Oh, I thought they had some pictures.
I didn't
This is
see any pictures
just
on this
in the
one.
video. You can kind of see. Let's see if we can mute this real quick. You can kind of see, cars, porches. Basically, it's egging, but just with beans.
Yeah, egging or toilet papering. I don't think this one is anything new. I think the theft one is a little more insidious.
I don't know. What if you went home today, Krista, and your house was just covered in beans?
I'd be impressed. I'd be like, how
You'd be
did you get
angry.
beans on the roof?
You'd be angry about that.
Yeah, I probably would be
Oh, it'd be
upset.
easy. You just open the can and throw it.
And just like Walter White when he throws the pizza on the roof.
So they're asking for shop owners to report groups of rowdy teens buying large amounts of beans.
Oh. See something, say something.
So if you're a bean pro, maybe you switch over to, I don't know, like peas or something.
Lentils,
Throw them a curveball.
chickpeas.
Hominy. And our final story has no explanation.
What a beautiful headline, though. I almost started laughing when I saw it.
It's just madness, and this is the world we live
I
in.
think we could parley with them to get somebody freed from one of the kidney camps in
Swap them
China.
out. Take a
Yeah.
Uyghur in exchange for this
Yeah.
guy. Yeah. Honestly, I don't think this guy's worth a whole Uyghur. He's worth like
Maybe we can get 2.
a tenth of a Uyghur. We're gonna have to get a bunch of these guys. We get this guy and all the people who stole the identities of the condo collapse people.
Oh, yeah.
Package deal. We get one really high quality Uyghur for that.
Oklahoma man allegedly poops in grocery store freezer. A woman discovered after reaching for pizza rolls.
I like to imagine how that guy looks so disgusted in that video, didn't he? And he should be. Although I think they're talking about something else. They're talking about death sentence.
Pay close attention, I guess, when you're looking in the freezer at your grocery store.
Here's a question. Did the security system at this grocery store, were they using Game Boy Colors? What is this?
That would be make a fine printout on the Game Boy Color.
Thanks to that one guy, the grocery store now has to spend 10, 20 grand upgrading their surveillance system just in case this happens again.
It looks like they purposely went in with a marker and colored his face in so he couldn't be recognized.
Yeah, this is pretty much, I've literally had this dream and woke up in a cold sweat. I was like, well, I guess I'm not going in public today.
Touching someone's poop in a grocery store?
Yeah, just waking up and it's like discovering some horror that someone has left somewhere. And it's just like...
Is that part of the public bathroom
Yeah.
paranoia? So this guy went into the store. He spent some time filming women and following them
as you
around.
start, yeah.
When he was done with that, he went over to the freezer, hopped up on it, dropped the deuce, and then took the pizza rolls and stacked them on top of it. So when this woman went in, she got the pizza rolls and a whole big handful of his, and that was on the underside. So she turned it over and she was like, "Wait a minute, is that?" Yes, it was. It was that.
Death sentence.
Maybe gloves weren't a bad idea at the grocery
Maybe
store.
someone more deserving can benefit from his kidneys.
She mentioned that she was like completely masking and gloving everywhere she went to grocery stores. Now she was completely paranoid.
Oh.
Also, do you think that his choice of freezer was tactical? Why the pizza rolls?
Well, see, what I'm thinking is like, if it got everywhere, that means it was probably warm. Like,
Well, of course
he
it
had
was
just
warm.
done it.
No.
But like if it was in the freezer, if it had been there for a while,
No,
it
Krista,
could have frozen.
It was one of those like, down in freezers. He sat on top of it.
Yeah, but I'm saying like, is it a closed door freezer, or is it like
probably
just
probably one of the open air ones?
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
you mean by the time she got to it?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It
Like-
was still like smushy
Ugh.
because she didn't get all of it. She just got like it was in her fingers and stuff. Probably in her fingernails.
I mean, listen, I pick up Roo's poops all the time, but I got plastic between me and the poops, and it's still gross. And also, I signed up for that when I got a dog. I can't imagine doing that at a grocery store, barehanded.
Unexpected.
Yeah.
You're expecting cold and you get a little bit of warm and it's
Yeah.
like, wait a minute, what could that be? And that's the last thing that you think it is. Of all the things that it could be coming out of this freezer, it's not that, right?
Ugh.
Also, how about a little Hep C?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just a little spice for you. Just make it a little bit worse.
Was that what was going around for a while, or was it Hepe? It was Hepe, I think.
Oh, right, that's the clay-colored stools, right?
Yeah.
What if you pull your hand back and it's clay-colored?
Oh no. You've been exposed.
Wendell's so quiet right now because he's just
He's
like
just looking at that photo like he wants to go through the screen and kill that guy.
it's like the gif of the dog. It's just,
I will not eat the cupcake. I will not eat the cupcake. I will not eat the cupcake.
I will never again eat pizza rolls. All right.
Oh, that's it. We'll see you guys next week.